just find out very quickly. Please just hold on. Also, I would like to also quickly introduce one of my colleagues. She's actually online with us as well. Her name is Adetokunbo Elliott. She is a member of the management team of Accion Microfinance Bank. She heads the value proposition and product development team at Accion Microfinance Bank. Hi, Tokumbo. Good morning. I think Tokumbo would unmute shortly.
Good morning.
Good morning, Tokumbo. Tokumbo, we actually cannot hear you. I think it's a network issue.
No, Tokumbo is muted.
Okay, Tokumbo, you're muted. Could you unmute yourself? And great.
Hello.
Hi, Tokumbo, we can hear you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. And thank you all for making our time to join us today. We promise it's going to be an engaging session. So sit back and have a good time. Thank you.
Thanks, Tokumbo. So, Tokumbo, can we start now, or do we? It's I think it's actually 10:02 from my phone. So, do we still give some of our customers some time to join, or do we just go straight to the presentation?
Okay, I think we should start at 10:05. Let's give more people time to join. Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. So we'll do 10:05.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I guess we're back again. I hope everyone can hear me loud and clear. Okay, so before we start off officially, I'd like to welcome another management staff that has joined us is the CEO, the Chief Commercial Officer of Accion Microfinance Bank, and he would be taking the official opening remarks. the person of Mr. Ndubisi Onoa. We'll just give him a few seconds to unmute. He just joined us.
All right. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Yeah. Thank you, Tokumbo. Thank you, Fisayo, for bringing this session to tourism. To our Ebo and their customers, welcome you to this forum. This is one of the ways we partner with our customers, our clients. They are not just our partners, our customers, they're also our partners, and we're partners in progress. Because if you do well, we do well. If your business doesn't do well, there's no way we can do well. And we appreciate the fact that without you, we won't have any business coming out to work. So we appreciate what our businesses went through because of COVID-19. And we are happy that, yes, we're at the recovery stage, but we also believe and know that to recover very effectively, there is need to touch base with subject matter experts who will work with us, who will see and know how badly our business has been hit, and who will give us quick winning tactics to rebound and come back to business. So we are happy you found time to be here, because for businessmen who are looking forward, who are strategic, they also appreciate the need to have more information about their business. If you other businessmen would think it's time wasting, oh, how do I leave my business and sign on to this? But I'm happy we have customers who appreciate the need for knowledge, knowing that it's knowledge, it's strategy that wins the race, not just necessarily efforts. So I'll assure you that we didn't make any mistake in selecting the subject matter expert who's taking you on this. We are happy and we are sure that you are going to gain a lot of insights, a lot of knowledge that will help you grow your business. So I will urge you to sit back, relax. Sorry, I didn't know I was muted. So I also ask you, that when you also take in these lessons, when you go back, do well to practice it, do well to put it into your business, and you can be certain that you will very quickly tell a story of what COVID and when your business has moved on. So thank you very much for joining. These 2 days are days that you also remember as your business progresses. Thank you for joining. Sit back and enjoy the lecture. I will still be with you till the end of these 2 days. So there may be need for me to also speak. But what is important is that you let the subject matter expert know what your expectations are from the beginning, so that they know why you're here, and so that they will also ensure that the cost structure, will reflect the reason you have joined this. And I'm sure at the end of this lesson, they're also going to be asking you whether they met your aspirations. So again, I welcome you. And I say, let's all sit back and enjoy the lecture. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, CCO, for taking time out from your busy schedule to speak to us. Thank you. We do appreciate it. In addition to what the CCO has said, after the session, we will be making available the recordings of the session and some of the training materials by the facilitators. We'll make them available and we'll send you the link. It will be hosted somewhere on the website, so you can go back and have access to some of those materials again. Thank you very much. Peter, are you still online?
Yes, will be coming on next.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, I am. Can we go ahead?
Yes, please, we can.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome you to this
I would call seminar/training session. First of all, I'd like to express on behalf of our organization thanks to Accion Microfinance Bank for bringing us in to work with them on this. My name is Peter Aishida. I'm the CEO of Pendaxia Limited, and myself, along with my colleague Benga Olabi, will be taking you through this 2-hour, what I hope will be a very engaging and insightful 2-hour training session for today. I welcome you to this, what we call the Leadership and Entrepreneurship Advancement Program, or LEAP. And the course we'll be starting with today is Managing Business Cycles. First of all, can I quickly confirm that you can all hear me? Let me be sure you can all hear me. So if you don't mind, if you are able to, if you have access to the chat room, you can just type in on your chat, yes, so that I know that you are hearing me clearly. So if you don't mind, if you can do that now, please, just so I'm sure that you're hearing me clearly and you can see my video and you can also see the screen. So if you are able to, just go ahead and type yes into the chat room. Thank you very much, Esther Uyana, and thank you very much, Tokumbo Elliott. Okay, so at least we've gotten responses from 2 people. If you're still hearing me, please go ahead and do so, so that I know you are hearing. Now, this program, like I said earlier, this program, the title for this course today is Managing Business Cycles, and what we hope you'll be able to get out of this is, 1, understand environmental factors that cause disruptions. It's a course on understanding the business cycle and how you can, in the midst of the downturns of the cycle, still be able to run your business in an effective way. Thank you to all of you for responding. Thank you very much. Now, we have 4 key learning outcomes we hope that we will achieve today. First of all, is to give you a basic understanding of environmental factors that impact your business, and then help you to be able to, as a business owner, do some basic scenario planning to say, what are the possible scenarios that may occur in the future, and given those scenarios, how should I position my business so that I can ride the storms, as it were. And then we'll hopefully review some cases to gain insights from other organizations or businesses like yours that have been able to weather the storm in this type of cycle. Even though I must say, what we're experiencing now, probably we haven't experienced it in a number of years in terms of the suddenness of business disruption this year. But that's the course. It's going to go on for the next 2 hours. Like I said, we hope that it will be very engaging and effective. Pendaxia is a management consulting firm to which we belong, and we have a specialized learning function, learning subsidiary, where we help organizations go through what we call experiential learning solutions. And by that, essentially, we learning and training in a way that you can participate and experience the situations for yourself. So that's what we're going to do. A bit about me, just very quickly. I've spent the last several years consulting with very large organizations, medium-sized organizations, in the area of strategy and organization and human performance. And also, recently I was a director for over 5 years of 2 of the Central Bank of Nigeria entrepreneurship development centers. And in those centers, we spent over 5 years developing medium and small scale entrepreneurs and helping them grow their business. So we hope to be able to bring that experience to bear. My colleague that will be taking this with me is Benga Olabi. When he comes on, he'll introduce himself, but he also has extensive experience in this area. Now, so what's our 2 hours going to look like? Very quickly, after this introduction, we'll start with a context setting session. We title Surviving Nature and Urbanization. And as we go into that, I'll explain why we gave it that title. And then we'll look at basic elements of the economy and understanding business or economic cycles. And then we'll take some time to look at after a short break, environmental assessment and scenario planning. How you as a business owner can evaluate the environment around you, the environmental factors affecting your business, and do some planning to position your business well. And then we'll look at how businesses position for recovery and growth. And then after that, we'll have opportunity to take questions. So that's essentially what this session is going to look like. As has been stated earlier, we'd encourage you to mute unless you want to ask a question, in which case you can raise your hand and then we'll be able to call you. But we also want this to be interactive. So as much as possible, we'll be calling on you from time to time to type in a chat, to respond either to a comment or to a question or something like that, or just to know that you're being engaged. So as we reach out to ask, I appeal to you to respond so that we can make these 2 hours very engaging. And on that note, I'll start off with this segment. We've called Surviving Nature and Urbanization, and it sounds like an abstract title, as it were. But what we're trying to do is to use an analogy to help us look at what we're experiencing now with respect to the business cycle. We had sent out some links through the bank, or put out some links on the bank's website to some videos, and I hope that you were able to take some very short videos to look at them. If not, you can still go ahead and look at them later on. On the surface, they seem to be, have nothing to do with business, but they provide an analogy for us to look at what we're doing. And so the first thing that we're going to start with, it is a truism, but it's important to start with. Change is inevitable, and there will always be change in our environment, in the business environment, in our social environment, etc. Change, as we know, is inevitable. However, achieving success and surviving in a changing environment is not inevitable. There are some things that you may have to do to make success happen for yourself. Success doesn't come often, you have to go to it. And I think it is very effectively captured by the graphic on the screen of the fish jumping out of its own bowl to one that is greener, so to speak. And that is to say that when you want to make a success of your business, there are specific and deliberate things that you will do to achieve that. And that's an important mindset to have as we begin to talk about these things. Now, we're talking about managing the business cycle, but let's take a step back and understand. In life, there are cycles all around us. In fact, cycles are a natural part of our existence. Starting from the weather cycle, when it changes from season to season, spring, summer, fall, winter in the Western world. Here is the rainy season and the dry season. It's a continuous cycle. You have the water cycle, you have the cycle of plant life. Cycles are naturally occurring aspects of our life as humans. And so, it is within the economic and business world. The business and economic cycles are no different. They are an integral part of the process of building and growing your business. Okay? The key issue or the key question is, as the economic of the business cycle unfolds, what do you do when confronted with a downturn in the cycle? The cycle happens. Sometimes the boom aspect of the cycle, the expansion part may be longer and much more valuable or productive, but ultimately there is always that cycle. And so the question for you as a business owner is that, given that just like as in nature, natural nature cycles are inevitable, so also the business cycle is inevitable. The question is, what do you do as a business person in that cycle, particularly when you are confronted, as many people have been over the last few weeks, with a downturn or, well, I hesitate to use that word, but recession, Nigeria is not necessarily in a recession yet, I think, but there's a significant downturn. Well, economists will debate that. So the question to you is, what do you do? One, do you allow yourself to become a casualty of the business cycle and then allow the downturn to destroy your business, as illustrated in this graphic. Businessman is being asked, how are your sales going? And he says steady. What he didn't mention is that it's a steady decline into oblivion. So that's the first question. What do you do? How do you handle business downturn? Do you allow yourself to become a casualty? Or do you restructure to survive the downturn? And then as the cycle moves into upswing, position yourself to ride that wave of the upswing and benefit from it. Or, and the third one is the most appealing, are you able to position your business to actually defy the downturn, the cycle, and create your own upswing? For example, by being able to very quickly pivot your business from one area that's been hit by the downturn to another area that you can build on even within the downturn or recession, okay? And when my colleague Benga comes up, he's going to be talking a bit more about pivoting your business so that with the same infrastructure you have and possibly the same capital or the same skills, pivot your business so that even in the midst of the downturn, you have found opportunities to create growth for yourself. What we hope to do is that as we go through this process and you understand a bit more about the business cycle, then you can at least be sure of being in the second category of restructuring to survive the downturn, and possibly be in the third category where you actually define the downturn and while others are experiencing challenges. I'll give you a simple example. During the heat of the lockdown, for many food sellers, particularly those that had restaurants, the government instructed them to close down because, of course, of the concerns of COVID-19. But some of the smart ones amongst them pivoted their businesses quickly to home delivery, and several of them, a number of them that I know, built very quickly, very significant scale businesses, delivering to homes for parties, people that couldn't come together for business parties, they could, for birthdays and other celebrations, they could organize these people to deliver the food packages to their homes. And so that was how this particular restaurant owner was able to quickly pivot her business from where it was in fact, it wasn't a downturn, the business was shut, so there was no revenue, to using her infrastructure to pivot to another similar business or closely related business that enabled her to grow. So that's the key question, and that's what we want to talk about in this session, understanding the business cycle and then being able to position yourself effectively. And so the videos that we sent out the links for were some that, again, looking at principles in nature, help us to kind of use natural or simple logical principles to survive and possibly even thrive. So the first one was about a survivalist in the wilderness, but he came up with an acronym that is very apt and relevant: STOP, S-T-O-P. And that means, first of all, sorry, I hope you, okay. I hope you're still hearing me.
Yes, can you hear me, Fisayo?
Oh, was I muted for some time?
No, we could hear you. I think you just muted for a couple of seconds.
So I hope everyone is following. So this STOP acronym says it's one way to look at.
Hello, Peter, just to say something.
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
I just want to quickly say something. My hand had been up and I dropped in the comment chat that I wanted to say something quickly.
Please,
yes, okay, great, thank you. So we have two sets of 4 questions that we normally run to get feedback and interaction from the participants. Ideally, we should have actually run the first one before we started this session, but we would, if it's, you can't hear, can you hear me, Peter?
Okay, I'm hearing you now, yes.
Okay, so what I said is that we have 2 polls sessions that we normally run. There's one before the webinar and after the webinar. So if it's fine with you, would like to launch that poll one just before we go on the stretch break. I know there's a stretch break of about 10 minutes. When is that actually?
5 minutes, yes.
What time is that?
That's it's supposed to be about almost an hour, approximately an hour into the session.
Oh, so how do we, because we need to take a first poll before we go ahead. So what do you suggest we do?
If you want to do it now, that's fine.
Thank you. That would really be helpful. Thank you so much. So can we please have the first poll up? Sorry to cut into your presentation. Can we have the first poll up, please? So it's just going to be for about 5-10 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let
Thank
me
you.
just stop my sharing.
Yes. Okay, great. Thank you. So the poll questions is up, dear customers. So can you just click the one that best applies to you? We just want to find out how you heard about the training, what sector you operate in, and if you're aware of some of the initiatives of the bank. I think there are about four questions, and they're really just straightforward, simple questions. Thank you very much. You can see some of the answers already. This is just for us to be able to improve our service and to know what channels to use to reach you, and also for us to understand, to know your sector, so we can identify more resources that are peculiar to your industry to support you to thrive. Thank you very much. Okay, Peter, I understand that you can actually still share the video. So do you want to try that very quickly so we don't buy into time? The poll questions are still up, so participants, dear customers, so please still click it, the one that best applies to you, and then you can go ahead, Peter. Thank you very much.
Okay, so can I go ahead and resume?
Yes, please.
Thank you. I don't know if the participants are able to see the slide with the poll up.
Okay, Peter, this is Tokumbo. I would like to appeal that we give them few more minutes to quickly fill up the poll questions, then you can now come up with your video. I think we have few participants left to fill the questions, to answer the questions. So let's give them a few more minutes.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay, I observe that we have I believe 10 that have voted so far, or have responded to the poll. Sarah, can we go ahead?
Hi, Peter. I think we have about about 10 that have actually taken the poll, right?
Yes.
Okay. I think we can. Talking about, what do you think?
Note that amongst the figures showing it in, myself and Benga as well, in the total, so you need to subtract
Yes,
us
exactly, and
and yourself.
the bank staff as well. So I think we have 19 participants, apart from bank staff and Pendaxia staff, and only 11 of them have answered the questions. So we appeal to other participants to please answer the questions so we can go on with the training. Thank you.
Can we resume?
Hello, Peter. Yeah, so we're stopping so you can just go ahead. The testing will actually stop it. Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
You can go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so please ensure you complete the poll if you haven't done so. Okay, so we were talking essentially about business cycle and what is your response as a business person. That's what we're looking at. That's the whole purpose of understanding and managing the business cycle. What's your response? Are you able to restructure and survive and then position to thrive, or even better, to defy the business cycle, the downturn of the cycle, and pivot and do something different? And I just gave an example of a business that did that. And so what do you do? The important thing is to be able to understand not just your business, because I'm sure you are excellent and an expert at the business you do, but understand the economic environment in which it operates, and then be able to go through a process that helps you to interpret the environment and get feedback that helps you to respond in a way that is positive for your business. And we said we're looking at the acronym STOP that says, first stop and stop what you're doing and look around and then think. Understand the environment, observe what the trends are and what the situation is, and then plan. So that's the simple STOP acronym. I'm saying that stop what you're doing when it seems like things are going wrong. Take time to think about the situation, understand, observe what is going on around you and the opportunities, and then put together a plan of action. Very simple, very obvious, but an important structural way to, or important structure for looking at your business and attacking it. And then the second, one of the other videos was, again, a video about somebody learning to surf. Surfing is not something we do a lot in this part of the world. But why we thought it was interesting is because one of the key issues, as it were, in surfing is being able to catch a wave. And here we're talking about, as it were, the waves of the business cycle. Being able to catch a wave and ride the wave in the surf. And so if you look at somebody, there are some simple lessons to learn from a surfer. One is equip yourself, make sure you have the right equipment, because we're looking at the wave now, not from the context of the ocean or the surf, but the wave of the upturn in business and positioning yourself to ride that wave. So, well, first thing is to equip yourself, position your organization. You know, sometimes it means doing a little bit of internal restructuring, adjustment. Sometimes it means acquiring a few additional skills, etc. You know, but whatever you have to do to position your organization rightly, you do so. Again, if I go back to the restaurant owner that had to pivot from restaurant to food delivery, it meant getting some new skill, logistic skills now, because before, for the restaurant business, the focus of the logistics is inbound logistics, getting the food in for you to prepare and to serve. But when you're doing a food delivery business, now you also need to either master the delivery logistics or partner with an organization that masters it and knows how to get the best of that organization. So that's about positioning yourself for your organization, and then check the timing. You know, surfers often want to get on the wave at the right time to be able to surf effectively. The same thing, what's the timing and opportunity that the timing provides for you? And then, of course, having equipped yourself, position the organization, identify the right timing, catch the wave, and ride it. And those principles can be applied to the context of the business cycle. Equipping yourself, positioning your organization, understand the timing, how deep are we into the cycle? Are we about to come on the upturn? Or what are the counter cycles in this cycle? In other words, when this business is in a stroke, are there other business or another aspect of it that is actually increasing or achieving its peak?
Sorry, apologies. We just had a technical stuff here. So I will start to share my screen. Please confirm that you can see my screen by just typing yes. Anyone, or can I hear from the staff? Can you see my screen? Tokumbo or Fisayo?
Yes, we can.
Yeah,
we can.
All right. Yes,
Thank
so Peter was just sort of rounding up on the catching the wave. So let me just give him time to do that.
Okay, so sorry about that. Apologies for that. We had an unexpected technical issue. But I'll summarize it. Essentially, is so what we're hoping to look at is how we can position ourselves to identify the wave of the upturn, catch it, and take advantage of that in your business. So next, Benga is going to take us into looking at economic and business cycles in a bit more detail, and what are the elements to watch out for. So I'll go ahead and hand over to Benga right now.
Thank you all. And again, apologies. These are technical things that you can sometimes not foresee, but we'll be making sure that regardless of, we have backups. So like Peter has said, we talked about two elements or two basic videos that will be shared with you online. We're trying to avoid showing the videos, even though we try the videos, but sometimes we do know that showing those videos may be difficult because of bandwidth. So he spoke about the woods, when somebody's in the forest and then surfing on the waves. For those who know and understand what surfing is all about, where you try to catch a wave with a surfing equipment. When we're in the woods, now being in the woods, sometimes people have been found to get themselves lost in the woods. And essentially, there are just some few basic things that people can do. I mean, you don't have to panic when you're in the woods. If you're ever in a panic situation, thinking becomes very difficult to resolve whatever challenges you are faced with. So that acronym STOP says S is to stop, right? When you're in the woods and you find that you're somewhat lost, you can't find your direction, everywhere just seems to be where you didn't expect yourself to be, it says at that moment, stop, okay? Just stop walking around, stop panicking, and just look around, okay? And then just sort of get yourself together. Sometimes you may even be told to sit down, just to sit and calm your nerves. And then the T talks about thinking, and meaning now that you need to think, ask yourself, okay, now I'm in a situation, I don't know where I am, I need to get out of these woods, I need to get out of this forest, I need to be calm and sure that I can navigate myself. Then of course we need to observe. So start to observe your environment, look up to the sky, look into the woods, see the things that are around you, try and guess the time. I mean, again, depending on the weather and things like that, just observe and even observe yourself. Observe whether you are hurt, check your legs, check your arms, just sort of generally look at yourself to see, I hope I've not found myself in a situation where I may not be able to make it for too long. And then the P is to plan. And then of course, in catching the waves, we talk about waves because the economic cycles of life tend to have times of boom where the economy is prospering, and then times of recession where the economy is tanking down. So catching the wave means trying to know when the economy is going to go into a boom and being able to take advantage of that boom. Of course, having your organization well equipped, just like somebody who is catching a wave has to equip himself or herself, getting the right position, looking to the horizon. Again, because they catch the waves that are coming from the sea to the shore, you have to position yourself and look to the horizon to see, okay, where is the wave coming from and things like that. And then checking the timing of when the wave itself will break and you can get yourself to ride that wave and you can catch it. The same thing we're going to be talking around that as we go into the business element. So let me just dive straight into the business element. So I will be talking around the basic elements of the economy. And I know for many of us, we hear news in the radio, we listen to TV, sometimes we read newspapers, because we're business people, we have to at least have a sense of what is going on in the economy. So I will talk around the basic elements of the economy and then how these business cycles come about and what do they mean. When we take this next segment, We will have a bit of some stretch break. This segment will be a bit long. We'll have a bit of some stretch break so that we don't keep you seated for too long. Then we'll come back and look at how to then really do your own scenario plan for your business and what are the things you can do to recover depending on the kind of cycle that we have. All right, so let's go to the basics of economics. And I want you to know one thing, that transactions are the basic forms of exchange. I believe every one of us that is into business, regardless of whatever business you do, what we are doing is transaction. Whether you are a school owner, you are offering services, which is education, some curriculum, or some co-curricular, depending on, in exchange for money. So you have buyers and sellers. Your goods may be tangible, your goods may be intangible, which are like services. If you are Mr. Ludari, I saw his store. He seems to be in a supermarket of some sort. I could see some shelving and products. So you do have organizations that sell tangible things. You may be selling cars, you may be selling fashion wares, you may be selling home goods. So whether they are physical goods and tangible things, or they are non-physical, intangible, insurance is a sales of a service, service of managing risk. Banking that Accion is doing is a sales of a service, facilitating and intermediating financial transactions for those who have money to save and those who need money for credit. So everybody is doing one form of transaction or the other. And so buyers and sellers always come together to do transaction. But one thing that is interesting is this, that not all the time are these transactions exchanged with cash, with money, physical money, so to speak. There is something called credit, which is even what Accion Microfinance Bank is a master of. And so in every economy or in every transaction, you have something called credit. And what is credit? Credit is just a promise of taking some goods and services in anticipation of future payment. All right, I can take goods and services in anticipation of future payment, meaning that I can get someone to release to me goods and services that I need now. I want to consume them now, in a promise that I will repay the value of those goods and services in the future, and we can even determine the terms. And if it is a bank extending you that credit, they are also giving you some form of capability, saying, okay, we can underwrite the value of the goods and services you want to enjoy in anticipation of you paying back to us the value in the physical cash in the future with some, of course, some form of interest. So you will see that in exchange, you can use money or you can use credit. And these are the two major things that we use to spend and to exchange for goods and services. And that is very important for us to note. Now, I don't know if your business is into credit or some form. I know a lot of businesses say, no credit, come tomorrow. No credit today, come tomorrow. But for most economies, they tend to make sure that their economies have credit, to ensure that spending is done. All right. So if we do have credit and we are doing transactions, again, it's important to realize that those transactions between buyers and sellers are for particular goods and services. So when we talk about the market, every market is where goods and services of the same similar type are exchanged by buyers and sellers. So for people that are in education business, your school or your institution is not the only school or institution offering educational services that you are doing. There can be many sellers, and as such, there are also many buyers. If you're into provision store, supermarket, so for example, we have supermarkets in Nigeria. You have the likes of Spar, you have Adide, you have Ebano, you have the one in the malls, ShopRite. There are all kinds of supermarkets, all right? You have your mom and pop supermarket in your neighborhood that may not even have the name, the Malam store. But essentially, they have very similar stock that they carry: household goods, personal use goods, food items, processed foods, drinks, and what have you, in exchange for people who need them to put in their own domestic store and to eat. You also have fruit markets. You have people who sell fruits of all types, open fruits, processed fruits. You know, you have car markets, you have stock. So where you have similar goods and services being sold, and there are similar buyers that need those goods and services, all of the transactions that take place are then regarded as market. This is just a basic terminology in economics. So a market is a place where you have buyers and you have sellers. In fact, another terminology that is used in the economy is when you use the word industry. Now, industry is more specific to the sellers. This tends to look at it from the sellers only. That is, who are the people that are in the selling of these types of goods? They call them industry. So in the banking industry, you're looking at all the kinds of banks that sell financial services, whether they are microfinance banks or commercial banks or development banks or investment banks or corporate banks or merchant banks. They are all banks. So that banking industry, and you know, how do they relate among themselves? These sellers, you know, are they very competitive or are they collaborative? Are they many and therefore the industry is segmented, or are they few and therefore the industry is concentrated? You hear all those kinds of words. But where you look at an industry, which is the seller, and then you combine that with the buyers, who are like your customers, we regard that as the market. So every market is where all these transactions take place. Now, aggregating all these markets together is what comes to become the economy. So when we say the economy of a country or the economy of a nation, as the case may be, is looking at all the markets, all these markets, and there are all kinds of markets. Like I've mentioned, there's stock market, there's car market, there's the supermarkets for food and beverages, there's banking market, there's real estate market where house is sold and built, there's the construction market where you do infrastructure of roads and bridges and what have you. So all these markets combined together is what we call economy. And what goes on there is that the total spending, you know, of all these markets, the total quantity of goods and services that is aggregated together is what we call economy. That's the basic element that makes up the economy. And of course, when you then begin to look at the economy, you see that in these markets, like I mentioned, people. Can we have the administrator help us to mute, please? So we have people, we have businesses, then we have the banks, we have the governments, all of these different players, then make up the economy. And the economists measure these markets is using what is called the gross domestic product. So I'm sure many of us have heard the word GDP, the acronym GDP, gross domestic product, meaning that the gross, the aggregate of the whole production that comes out of a domestic country. Nigeria is a country, Ghana is a country. So where you have a sovereign nation, and you know when you use the word sovereign, it means that within the administrative boundary of that country, they can decide their laws, their regulations, and how they want to interact socially or economically. So within all those sovereign nations, then we have gross domestic product. How much of goods and services do you all produce? But like I mentioned before, the basic element of it is transaction. So many of us are transacting. I would like us as participants, please, can you type and just let us know what industry or what market you believe you belong to? What do they call your own market? Just as a way of knowing that we are communicating. Type into the chat box. We'd like to know what market are you serving or do you find yourself? You can use the word industry or market. Like I said, industry is used for the sellers. When you're looking at all the sellers together, you say, okay, industry. But the sellers are also selling something to consumers. So when you now bring the consumer and the sellers together, you call it a market. You know, so we would like to know what markets are you as participants on this program. So please type it so that we can use that to engage and also be able to then explain things that are going to be related to what it is that you are going through particularly. All right, so let me just mention some of the key players that then regulate this economy. And of course, the major key players that we would like to bring up at this point are the central governments and, of course, the central bank. Okay, so thank you very much. Oh, wow, health and fitness. That is very interesting. Health and fitness, hospitality, education. That is very, very good. Thank you for your post, Esther in Phoenix. It would have been nice if you use your name instead of your device. So that would have been helping us to know who you are, But thank you for those who have responded with the kind of industry where you are or the market you are. All right, interior decoration, excellent, very good, thank you. So you always have a central government, which is in our own case here, our federal government. In the United States, that's your United States government, and all of those governments, Ghana, South Africa, every government central to the sovereign nation. And then, of course, every of those governments or those nations have what they call the central bank. These are two major players that, in an essence, regulate the economy. They regulate how transactions are done, And basically, what does government do? Government really tries to ensure that they provide the economic and social infrastructure that facilitates transaction. We talked about transaction as the basic element. So people need to move around, and they need to move by road or by air or by water or by rail or by bicycle or even just walking, having a sidewalk. So people need to move around. They need to go to the market. They need to go to where the sellers are. Even the sellers require certain kinds of economic value chain. They need transportation also to move their goods in. They need ports if they are involved in importation. So central governments tend to provide this social or economic infrastructure as a government, because the cost of providing those things in larger scale will be less than if every enterprise has to provide it by themselves. Of course, that's not the case in Nigeria. We all know that in Nigeria, many of our enterprises are almost like local governments. We give ourselves our own water, generate our own electricity, have to go and source our own diesel, So we do a lot more because our governments are not working, but they are all trying to get themselves to work. So governments are to provide all these things. And how do they provide them? Through taxes. They collect tax or they generate revenue in some form or fashion, and then they spend those things on those activities that facilitate economic transactions, like I had mentioned. So governments essentially are what you would call fiscal policy providers. They govern all of those things through what is called their fiscal policy. And in allocating money, they need to know where they will allocate it to. Again, part of this whole economy, like we talked about education, people need to get educated so that your people can become skilled and they can adapt to changes and they can survive for the future. You need to look at health so your people are well. All of these infrastructure, government has to decide where to spend the money and also where to stimulate the economy in terms of where can they put their resources. That's what governments do. On the other hand, central banks, they tend to control the supply of this money, or even the supply of credit. Like I mentioned to you, when you are exchanging goods and services, the basic things you use is money or credit. Money is like cash. It's like something that is guaranteed. Money is something that says, I have the ability to make the payment now. Whereas credit is a promise that, okay, I don't have the ability to make the exchange of value now, but I can make the exchange of value in the future because I'm going to create some more value by myself, and that value I create, I will now bring it in the future to pay. So the money itself or the credit itself, the control of it is done by central banks, and it is every sovereign nation tends to have their own central bank. That's what gives you your sovereignty. That is, you can determine your laws and your regulations of how you exchange value. In Nigeria, our sovereignty gives us the ability to create money called naira. In the United Kingdom, theirs is called pounds. In the US, it's called dollars. In China, it's called renminbi or the yuan. In Ghana, it's called the cedis. In France, it's called the franc. And in Germany, it's called the Dutch mark. Okay, France is now the euro. That's the euro, thank you, because France has become a member of the European Union. So another thing I can mention is that countries can come together and create another sovereign layer above themselves and then have a government in that sovereign layer and they then create their own currency and economic facilitation. So in Nigeria, we have our Central Bank of Nigeria. And they do three basic things that I've just written out there. The open market operations. Now, what does open market operation mean in a basic sense? Because government of a country also has responsibility for spending money for the entire country, providing infrastructure. Like you know now, our own government is providing things like railway. They are improving the airport terminals. They are working on the rail, I mean the ship terminals, the ship port, the shipping port. They are equipping the schools some more, hopefully. They are doing the whole bridges and even the roads, you know, getting the roads to be expanded and then building homes for people. So all of those monies that government requires, sometimes government needs to sell something called bond, okay? Because government is just one entity in the economy. You and I are also entities. Our businesses are entities. If there's any farmer here, somebody into agriculture, when you go to your farm, all you need is your land, you need the input you farm, and then God by nature and the cycle of nature helps you to create wealth from the ground. That wealth is yours and you can sell it. So government is an entity, you and I are an entity, but at the end of the day, government needs money, either in terms of taxes from us or bond, meaning that government wants to borrow from the public. Government wants to borrow from private citizens to say, okay, you loan us some money so that we can go ahead and transact. The central bank helps government to do that through what is called the open market. And they do that to manage the flow of money. They also do that through something called the cash reserve requirement, meaning that they also want to minimize how much money is in the marketplace. And I'm going to explain why all of those things are done. So because you have banks, banks intermediate between those who have money and those who need money, those who need credit and those who want to save money and all of that. Central banks regulate the banking. They allow banks to emerge and those banks offer services. So when you are doing transactions, a bank can come and say, okay, I can help you to move your money and save it. Oh, you need more money, I can loan it to you so that you can also use it to trade and bring the interest back to those who have been saving with me. But because the central bank wants to minimize how much cash, or sometimes they want to increase the number of cash, they have what is called the cash reserve requirement or reserve ratio, meaning that certain amounts of money that the banks hold or can have, they want them to be kept with the bank, the central bank, and not to be out in the market. Because when there's too much money in the market and you have too much money sometimes chasing very little goods, it causes something called inflation. Meaning many of us have a lot of money and 2 or 3 of us want to buy the same thing, then we start bidding higher prices for that thing. It can trigger inflation. And when there's not enough money in the market and there are many surplus goods and services that have been produced, it can also cause deflation, making the prices of things to come down. So they want to balance it. They do what is called the cash reserve ratio. And then the last one is the discount ratio or the discount rate, which itself is like the interest rate. Banks can borrow money from the central bank and also loan the money to consumers or the people that do business. So that interest rate is the rate at which you can use to get credit. Remember, transactions are done based on credit or money. And if I have money and I have credit, I can spend and get more goods and services for myself, just like I've mentioned to you. So our economy is the aggregation of all the spending that we have on the goods and services that we are producing. So how easy is it for me to get that credit? Depends on the interest rate, which itself is depending on the discount rate that the central bank uses to give money to the bank. That interest rate is the cost of that credit. Credit is not free in a real sense. So when I want the credit, I want somebody to tell me, okay, I will give you the ability to get some things today, but you will pay me back tomorrow. Now that ability that they are giving me today to get some things, I have to promise them I will pay back that money and then I will put some more money on top as an interest. If the money I'm putting on top is not high, that encourages me to get that money, a lot of it now, because I'm not going to be paying too much to return the money. and I can use the money that I've gotten, the credit, to get a lot of goods and services today to consume or enjoy or to do what it is I want to do. So how much that money costs is called the discount rate or the interest rate. It also influences the economy. All right, let me go to the next few slides. So when you look at that, I've been talking about interest rate, inflation, and all of that. These, and then of course the credit. These are the things that the central bank controls. The credit is very sensitive. It's a vulnerable part of the economy because in itself is something that is created. It's not a real value that has existed. It's created. And it is a vulnerable part because people can borrow money and something may happen. They are not able to pay back the money. And that credit itself can actually disappear, so to speak. And I will explain what that means. When you have money and you have credit, and the total spending is our money and credit that we are spending on goods and services, our economy begins to grow if that spending is growing. Okay? If our credit is growing, our money is also growing, and we can have goods and services produced, the economy begins to grow. But guess what? If people cannot pay back the credit, that growth in that economy may become deflated if those credits go bad and we're not able to get back those values from the people that have borrowed the money. So it's a very risky area of the economy that needs to be well managed. Another area of the economy is what is called the exchange rate. Because our currency is sovereign, but every nation also cannot stand on their own, they also have to trade with other nations. And you want to know what is the value of our own currency compared to another country's currency, then the exchange of the currency is what is called the exchange rate, the value at which you exchange the currency. And that can also influence our economy. So all of these things are what central bank does to try and ensure that the economy is healthy or growing, as the case may be, and they have to manage all those things. They want to manage the inflation so that prices are not going too much high, and they also want to avoid recession so that the economy is not coming down. That is, there's no growth. In fact, the economy begins to decline. They want to avoid that. They want there to be continuous growth gradually. And that growth is important because, remember, our population is growing. When our population grows, we have more hands to create more value. And we also have more people that need more goods and services. So in an ideal world, our economy should be growing. It should never really decline, particularly if our population is growing. So we have more people to feed, and we have more hands and more labor to employ and produce goods and services. Now, something else that makes our economy grow is also called productivity. Productivity means when we are educated, when we have skills, when we are able to use technology, when we are able to use equipment, we can produce more goods and services in a shorter time. So if you look at the world, in the time when the world was agrarian, we were agricultural people using simple tools like hoe and cutlass and all of that, the economy then was small compared to when the world became mechanized. We now have the tractor, we have the electricity, telephone, computers. So there's something called the Industrial Revolution, you know, where things are changing over time and productivity is improving. So we can produce more goods. So our economy should be growing all the time. And therefore, our businesses should also be growing all the time. Okay? But where we will have that recession is because some things happen as a result of either the human behavior, and I will explain that in the next couple of slides. In the human behavior, how we respond to the dynamics of what we want. But these few slides here shows some differences between the fiscal and monetary policy. That is what government does and what the CBN, the central banks do. I would not want to dwell on that. When you go to the materials, you will see that. So I talked about credit being the place where it's very vulnerable and very risky. Now, I will explain how this brings about that cycle that we're going to talk about now, this economic cycle. Because naturally our economy should grow because population is growing, productivity is improving, therefore we're producing more goods and services, therefore we are also able to spend more money. The money we are spending is not just money, but money and credit, okay? So if credit is available, and the cost of that credit is not that expensive, people will try and get that credit and buy and get a lot of it to buy the things that they need now. So in buying the things that they need now and having the capacity to buy things, it inflates the economy. It makes the economy to grow big. But guess what? Many times that rate of inflation of the economy, having capacity to buy, may be more than the product or the goods and services that our producers can produce. So when you have a lot of money in the market and a lot of credit in the market, and that money and credit is so available that it is now beginning to chase fewer goods and services, it may result in inflation. It may result in inflation, and you want to manage that. Also, as the money is increasing, credit is available, companies are selling and making money. Many people will also want to go into that same kind of economy and be producing goods. So when the companies are beginning to produce goods and services because there's a lot of credit and money available, sometimes they also overproduce goods and services. Now, this behavior of overproducing goods and services, or this behavior of getting too much credit in the hands of people and too much money chasing too few goods, starts to create some imbalance in people's behavior, imbalance. And that imbalance can result in the boom and bust, because the people regulating the economy don't want you to have too much money and credit and money chasing too few goods. And sometimes when there are too much goods and services in the economy, because of people wanting to take advantage of, oh, people are having money to buy things and they are all now producing, and they start to overproduce. In overproducing, they cannot sell again, prices start to go down. When prices are going down, they have to start laying off their staff, you know, and they start to cut back on, oh, their overproduction before. All of those behaviors is really what brings about this cycle that we call business cycle. Because human behavior is unpredictable, truly speaking, very unpredictable. So it sometimes makes us to do things too much when we see that we are having prosperity, and then we cut back, and that cutting back, we cut back too much, it brings us back again to a period of recession. So while it is the spending that drives our economy in terms of the size, how that spending is done, like I've mentioned, and how the goods and services are produced, create situations sometimes where it brings about a cycle. So let me explain that cycle again. When we have plenty money available, money and credit to buy goods and services, the producers of the goods and services will start producing a lot of goods and services to meet the money that we have. And so that will begin to make the economy grow. And as those producers are producing more, they will have to employ more people, buy more equipment and machinery, and hopefully make more profit. Now, when they begin to produce too much at a faster rate than the money that is available, then there will be competition among those producers. It begins to reduce prices, the profits start to decline. Some of them even become liquidated because they can no longer sell. There's too much capacity in the market or in the industry, and they can begin to lay off. Suddenly, people start cutting back, because as they lay off, remember that those who they are laying off were also employees who had money to buy things. And as they stop spending because of the capacity, overcapacity in the market, they no longer buy the input materials or whatever, and they have to then maybe sell off their inventory or sell off some of their production capacity. That situation begins to tighten a situation where people no longer spend money, and then people start holding back. Before you know it, it will bring about a decline in the economy. And that decline may result in what you call a depression, a recession, or a depression. Now, the regulators, when they begin to see that happen, may begin to say, okay, how can we help these businesses to manage and cut their losses so that they don't throw their people out into unemployment? You know, they look at a way to reflate the economy, and then, of course, to help people again to start stimulating spending and then bring that back up again. All those behaviors create upturn and downturn, upturn and downturn. It's an unpredictable thing. Economics is the study of the economy, and that's the study of the behavior of people when it comes to exchange of goods and services or demand and supply. and it's very unpredictable. So that's what results in the up and down. So the spending drives the economy either up or down, and that's what determines the size of our economy. And you know, everybody spends money on what they feel is critical to them. So for example, as households, as individuals, as family, you spend money on food, on clothing, on travel, on vehicles, on fuel, on housing, on education, on health, and so many things like that. But depending on the situation of the economy, people start to cut back on their spending if they see that they don't have much money in their hands to spend. Okay? The same thing with businesses. Businesses have various things that they spend money on. Governments have various things that they spend money on. So all of this spending, like we said, makes up the economy. But at times when there is overcapacity or it begins to decline in spending, people cut back on their spending based on what they call essential needs. So maybe if traveling is no longer essential, if traveling is seen as a luxury, they cut back. When people no longer have that discretionary income, they cut back. You know, they are no longer able to spend as much money. And therefore, if you are a business that you are serving customers or people that are in discretionary spending area, not in their essential life, that decline of spending may affect your own area of business. Say, for example, business that are travel agents. Hospitality business. Somebody is here in hospitality. Because of disruptions that happened as a result of COVID, and government says everybody should stay back, no movement, so that we can curtail the transmission of these health things, it contrasts the economy. And people will no longer want to travel, one, because of health reasons, and two, because they don't even have the wherewithal, the financial muscle. They'll say, okay, let me stay at home rather than go out, rather than travel, rather than go for a holiday. Let me stay at home, you know, and just preserve my money. So those situations occur where people's spending start to change as a result of the economic cycle that we find ourselves. So you need to know what business are you in and what cycle is the economy and what are the likely implications of that cycle to your own kind of business. But what I'm still describing to us here is what brings about that cycle. Now, like I said, it is the spending that determines the size of the economy, but not just the size of the economy that matters. There's also something called the structure of the economy. This structure relates to how are these goods and services produced, okay? So all of this flow of currency and flow of money and flow of exchange of value also is not just in size, but structure. And let me explain that issue of the structure. This will also help you to understand where are you in the kind of business that you are offering. The structure of an economy is dependent on the type of activities that economy is supporting or that builds up that economy. Remember, the economy is the aggregation of all the different markets. The market is the aggregation of the transactions of goods and services. Now, economists have said there are different types of activities that companies are involved in, that is in the market. Primary activity, they call them the primary activity. Primary in the sense that this is really where you are beginning to create value from the resources of the earth. Things like mining. You know, when you talk about value, exchanging value, goods and services, everything that we do really comes from this earth. So God has made available the trees, the animals, the soil, the natural resources, the valuable resources like gold and silver and copper and all of those things. There's so much resources in the world upon this earth, water, even the air, all of those resources. So people that are able to carry out activities to take advantage of those primary source of activity or of value of those materials and create goods and services from them, they are called primary sector. Okay, so your oil and gas, where we go to mine oil from inside the earth, the mining companies that mine gold, and then agriculture, where we are going to farm, you know, and plant the seed. Even the seed came from the plant. Let's not forget. So that we're not really creating anything. We're just taking the seed, planting it, tending to it, waiting for the water to come, you know, and for the sun to shine, and then it will grow. We make sure we weed it, and then we harvest. Those are all primary sector. So people in farming, production, even animal husbandry of some sort, they are all primary activities. because we are dealing with almost nature at that point and creating our goods and services directly from the nature to sell in our markets and all of that. But there's something called the secondary sector, which is again, now those primary things that have come out, how do we add more value to them? In the agrarian days, everybody used to farm, and then the farming, you will eat what you can eat, you will keep what you can keep, but there will always be a lot of wastage because of the environmental factor, heat, decay, and all of that. So with research, with time, we started to process our food. You can can your food, you can process them into flour so that they can have longer shelf life. Even our wood, we can now make them into furniture and many other things like that. Our brick and mortar, we can now build into houses, you know, that can give us a more comfortable place rather than just staying in the cave or under a tree or just putting a shrub of trees together. We now can construct, you know. So there's a lot of value add that is done to all those primary goods. Leather, for example, you can now make shoes out of them. Clothes, all the wool that we used to find from our sheep, we can make them into thread. Those threads are now made into clothing, you know. We can draw silk from the silkworm and convert that into silk textile and make that into clothing. So all those things that we add value to is called secondary activity, okay? And then there's even the tertiary activity again. These are services, meaning now that, okay, I have produced the car, okay, my own car and this other person's car, very similar, almost the same. I want to sell my own differently. So I need to now have a sales force, or I need to have a marketing team that can help me market my own car and position my own car so that I can become more distinct in the marketplace and separate myself. You know, there's a lot of value in tertiary sector. Even those who are into hospitality, for example, you know, you offer a service. So the airline already exists, the airport already exists, but you help your consumer to find the cheap airline. You help them to identify the holiday spot. You provide them a service. So a lot of the things that the consumer of your own service is going to end up enjoying don't belong to you, but you offer them a service that is sitting on top of that secondary service so that you can help them do a tour package and all of that stuff, you know. So a lot of things that are called tertiary or third level production are things that you layer on top of the second level, where you can add again value to that. And there's even what is called the fourth level now, which is knowledge and skills of complex processing, or what we now call AI. You know, people who are into research. For example, today now, you look at COVID. We had to research a solution for COVID and come up with vaccines, high level of technology, using it to decode the virus strand. What is this virus strand? What does it look like? What are the medications that we can use to address it? How does this virus attack the human being? All those levels of complex research, working at that level, is also called a fourth level of activity. So these different layers of activity is what is called the structure of the economy. Remember, like I've said again, the economy is the aggregation of all these markets. These markets are aggregation of all our transactions. So I don't know where you belong. Can you type for me in your own industry what you think you are doing? Which of these sectors do you believe you belong? Type it in now. Are you a primary producer or secondary producer or tertiary producer, or you are in the fourth level, the quaternary sector? Just type it. Let me see what your responses are. Where do you think your own goods and services belong? So in every country, how well...
Hi, Ben, guys, Pisayo. Can you hear me?
Go on. I can hear
Yeah.
you.
Okay. Yeah. But I think some of the participants...
Sorry?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Participants what? Go on. I can hear you
Yeah,
now.
sorry. Yeah, I was muted by the chief host. I'm saying that the participants actually dropped some of their industry earlier, right? So
Not
saying
the
that...
industry. This is now which level of industry are they? Are they primary? They
Okay.
dropped industry, which is the name.
Okay.
And now that industry, where do they think they belong to? Is it a primary production sector
Okay. All
or
right.
secondary production?
Thank
I think
you.
in terms
Okay.
of the structure.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to be able
All right.
to see that you're understanding what I'm saying. So if
Okay,
I'm a
good. That's good.
technical person, for
Already
example,
in the group
I should
chat.
be typing primary. So education is not primary, okay? That's an interesting one. Interestingly enough, education is in the tertiary sector. Education is in the tertiary sector. So because you are dealing with human resource, you are providing education, intellectual knowledge, you are providing knowledge to the human person, right? Who is like someone that is already how do I put it now? Is already a material made in that sense. Service industry. So even banking, for example, banking is in the tertiary sector. You are providing a service to those who are in the secondary sector. So it's also important to know which sector you belong, whether you are primary. So health and pharmacy, for example, is also more or less in tertiary sector. If you are only providing the services, for example, if you are into health and pharmacy, in terms of producing the medication, if you are Pfizer, for example, if you are a producer of medication, then you are in secondary, because the producer of medication is using maybe extract from materials like leaves or trees or chemicals. You know, you're using the primary compounding materials to bring about a medication by adding value. So that would be a secondary if you're into producing of medication. But if you are offering a service like a hospital, or you are offering retail services, all right? You're not the one that produced the material. You're not the one that produced the medication. You're not the one that produced the supplement, you know, or even the medical aid. You're not the one that produced all those things. You are only selling them, you know, and advising people on how to use them. That is a tertiary sector. So you see, understanding these sectors is very important, because the way your business will be affected by the economic cycle depends on your own knowledge of even where you belong in these sectors. All right. So Esther, for example, you say you're tertiary, and I think Esther was the one that said she's into, is it fashion? Sorry, Esther is into health and wellness. Exactly. So Esther is into health and wellness. That is a tertiary sector. You are also a provider of service. Okay. So it's important to know that primary sector, secondary sector, tertiary sector, they are like layers on top of each other in terms of value add. Like I said, the primary sector are the agriculture, those who are producing from the earth, the world, using the things of the materials of this world. You produce gold, the raw materials. You produce the commodities. Nigeria used to be very well known as a commodity country. We're producing cocoa from the southwest. We're producing granite from the north. We're producing palm oil from the southeast. You know, we had all these commodities. Even today, we are still a primary producer because we are very dependent on oil. Okay, oil is, there's not much value you add to oil if you just produce it as crude oil and you are selling it. That's primary production. Mining is primary production. Agriculture is primary production. So we were a very, very well established primary production economy before. Now we have moved to secondary, but not well. We have not done well in secondary, okay? And tertiary, we're also very well known. So we have our banking sector. Telecommunications is also tertiary. Telecoms, offering people internet access, telephone, voice, and all of those things. Broadcasting, even our movie industry, entertainment industry, music industry. All of those industries are tertiary sector, okay? They are services. We're offering services. But the middle, which is the secondary sector, that middle is missing in Nigeria. Is very much missing, and it has implications for our economy. It has implications on how our economic cycle will operate, you know, and the influence that those things will have on our own business. So knowing where your business exists is very important, very, very important, okay? So, and the reason is this: primary producers require input from, secondary producers require input from primary sector. And if we don't have the primary sector available, to give the secondary, or we don't have the secondary to take the primary, we'll end up selling the primary sector output to other nations. So Nigeria, we export our crude, but we bring back the refined products. So refinery, for example, is meant to be a secondary sector. We import and export our crude, we import refined products. We export our food, and we bring back food, processed food. A lot of our food in Nigeria. So when you hear things like rice, we're bringing back rice, you know, because it has been processed and bagged, and a lot of all these canned foods, supermarket foods, we're not producing them much here. We will be spending a lot of foreign exchange to other countries to pursue and to bring in those goods. And then a lot of our primary producers, a lot of our secondary producers also do not have equipment. They cannot buy equipment from Nigeria because we don't have a steel industry. We don't have heavy equipment industry that manufactures equipment for the secondary producers. So we have to buy all those things. Now, when we are buying all those things, it will cause our exchange rates to be affected in a way or the other. And so that exchange rate will also influence the cost of producing the secondary goods and services. And we have to pass on that cost to consumers. So integrating across our sector is important for the structure of the economy, you know, not just the value of the spending. So the size and the structure of that economy influences how that cycle of our economy goes, you know, and as a businessman, you must know where you belong. So like I said, this repeated pattern of borrowing, increasing spending, increasing income, and then production of goods and services also increase to match that spending. And when there's overproduction and there's now price reduction and there's layoff and there's liquidation, people start cutting back in their spending and all of that, then you come into a recession period, and then governments have to say, oh, we are getting too much higher unemployment, we need to help to stimulate the economy, and then they do all kinds of things to bring it back up again. That cycle will forever continue to happen. But the beauty is that that cycle of up and down, at the end of the day, is still a way of trending up, because it is still going up because the economy is getting bigger, population is getting more, and the spending is getting more, but it is not a straight line of growth. It's a growth that happens based on up and down, up and down, up and down. So ultimately, there's always growth of the economy, but the up and down may impact. So if as a businessman, you don't understand this up and down, you know, when things are coming down, for how long will it go down? What can I do to conserve my own business? So by the time the thing is going back up, I can now take advantage again. If you don't understand all those things can take us out of business, you know. It will be like getting lost in the wood and not knowing how to find your way out of the wood. If you cannot find a way out of the wood and you cannot survive in the wood, then it's likely to that wood will then consume the person. It's like also trying to catch a wave, you know, and you don't know how to read the wave. And rather than catching the wave subsumes the surfer, you know. The same thing, to survive nature, to survive in the urban environment, you know, you need to look at your environment. So also in business, to survive in business, we need to understand the economic cycles of our environment and know what we need to do so that we are not caught unawares. So those up and down is what we call business cycle, you know, and they call them expansion or growth, or recession or depression, and expansion or growth. And like I said, the measure is the GDP. That's what they always use. The GDP is growing, or the GDP is contrasting. The GDP is now recovery and then growing. So Nigeria is at a period of recession now, once our GDP is now declining. In the last 2 or 3 quarters, they have said our GDP is declining. So we're now in a recession. It means something. It means that spending is not like before. People are cutting back on their spending. Goods and services are no longer going to be available. So government and central bank now have to start stimulating that economy so that they can turn it around and bring it back to a period of growth. So you as a businessman need to begin to understand these things. What should I do? This is just an overview for you. We cannot make you a master economics today, but we are saying, please don't avoid where you can learn these things from. It helps you as a businessman. Let me say something. Many of us as business people, we are sitting inside our business rather than us sitting on top of our business. When you sit inside your business, you are only looking at the drivers of your own business. You know, how can I sell? How can I make profit? How can I motivate my staff? How can I get more products and suppliers? You are not sitting on top of your business to say, okay, where is this business in terms of relative to other businesses or the economy. You know, how can I grow this business? Do I need to merge? How can I expand? Many times as business people, we are so involved in our business and we are overwhelmed by the challenges of running our day-to-day business. What we are saying to you as businessmen is you have to stop and step back sometimes, step out of that day-to-day running, and then start to think about the business in relation to your economy. Step back and look at it and say, okay, how is this business in relation to other businesses like my own? Are we all going through the same challenge? You know, what is out there that I need to be aware of that can help me change? Is there any new technology I need to get that can help me improve my productivity? So that's stopping and stepping out, thinking and observing and then planning is what we are saying we need to begin to do. And we must be doing it in relation to our business cycle so that you know when the economy is going to begin to grow again. Many people miss the wave. When the economy starts to grow, they did not make the investment in anticipation of that wave. They didn't buy stock. They did not get equipment ready for that wave, you know, and you become a late starter because you didn't know that the economy was going back up again. You are too much involved in your day-to-day sales. Many people miss the peak, you know, because you thought that, oh, this growth that has been happening, you are producing more, buying equipment, not knowing that the economy was already coming to a recession. You didn't read the sign well, that things were beginning to decline, and you made the investment wrongly. And now that you have made all those investments, the market has come down. You cannot get any return on the investment that you have made. The bankers are asking for their return. You cannot make as much sales. So your business will be affected by the business cycle. And if you don't know what this cycle is, and you don't know how to read it, or what is it saying, you know, what is the government saying, what is the CBN saying, you know, or what are my bankers telling me, you're not involved in these kinds of listening and observing, it may affect how you do your decision. So the early cycle, the mid cycle, the late cycle, and the recession are things you need to be aware of as a businessman. We can't go into the details. The material is going to be available for you to read later, but this will give you an overview. In the early stage, like I've mentioned, interest rate is low. People can collect a lot of money. People can borrow. You know, there's cheap credit, and that brings about spending and growth. The GDP begins to increase. Productivity is increasing. Employment is increasing, and all of that. Industrial production is also increasing. Sales is growing, and all of those things. Then in the mid-cycle time, some things begin to happen. There's overcapacity. There's now a decline. You know, growth is ceasing. People are now beginning to see that, oh, we have expanded too much. Credit is beginning to reduce. In fact, the cost of credit begins to go high. And because it is going high, people no longer have money in their hands. The central bank has now increased the cash reserve ratio. So bankers have to keep money at the back with the central bank. Not much money in the hands of people. That begins to at least manage that growth so that it's not overheating, and it begins to slow things down. Then in the late stage, the GDP begins to slow, which is the recession. You know, credit now tightens, no more money, productivity has declined significantly, sales is now dropping, and all of that, and it's becoming expensive for companies to finance growth. There's a recession coming, and before you know it, things get into a recession. So that kind of thing exists. You need to just read these things and understand them from what I've tried to explain. So when you have a decline in national income, it means the economy is contrasting. You know, like I've just said, I'm going to summarize now. So sales income will fall, sales will fall, production will fall, and the employment will fall. It's called a vicious cycle. And people have to find a way to break that vicious cycle so that it doesn't go into a tough spin. You know, when you get to a very tough spin of falling, you can go from a recession to a depression. And you don't want to go to a depression, because depression can mean a lot of unemployment. There will be anger. There will be not much production. You know, to now reflate can become a challenge. People want to manage the economy so it doesn't go to a depression. You know, and you even want to manage the recession also so you can go back to growth. And of course, growth and recovery is when the national income is increasing. You know, that's now what you call a virtuous cycle. You know, income is increasing, sales is going high, production is going high, employment is also going high. You know, everybody is happy. But again, if that going high is too much of a fast rate, it can also create overcapacity. And overcapacity itself can create inflation, because too much money chasing after too few goods, you know, and all of that can also happen. Depression can also happen. Deflation can happen where you have too much goods than the value of prices you have. I mean, than the spend that is available. So all of those things are what you should understand and know and manage. So these are the takeaway. Always remember that there will be upswing and downswing. A current downswing does not mean it to be there forever. Recessions don't even last as long as growth. If you can weather the storm during the recession, there will always be growth. What you need to know is when will the storm end, so that you are ready for that growth, so that you can make the right investment. That's very important. You know, you don't want the growth to have happened before you are not getting ready. Others are taking advantage of that growth and you were not there. So understanding these things is important. And also when it's going to decline, you know, you want to be sure you're not making investment when the economy is declining. You want to hold back your investment. Don't build that additional classroom. I mean, today now, if anybody had built classrooms, say last year, you built more classrooms for expansion. Today, you will find out that it's going to be difficult to fill up those classrooms because today now we are doing blended learning. Technology has come. People have to have less number of classrooms and probably even to teach. So if you had made an investment in technology, say last year or 2 years ago, that technology will be helping you today. Many schools that did not make that investment can no longer teach their children since they couldn't come to school. But those who had made the investment a year or 2 years ago, today can still continue teaching their children. You know, they can be adding value to the children, and parents will be like, that school is a great school. So the timing of all of these recessions and growth and what it means to your business, you need to understand it, because the investment you're going to be making, the decision you're going to be making will affect you if you don't make the right judgment call at the right time. This just shows example of the business cycle in the US. They've told us that there's always a longer time of growth than the time of recession. We don't have this kind of graphs for Nigeria. We're not very data driven, but you can go back and study these things and see them again. But this was to show us again our own sample of our economic indicators for Nigeria. You need to begin to understand these economic indicators, the things that tell us the signs of the times, whether the Nigerian economy is growing or whether we are declining, you know, the GDP and figures like that. The more you understand them, the more you're able to make decisions that will be more informed, that will help you. For those who travel out for buying stock, you do foreign exchange, you need to understand the exchange swings, you know, so that you can know what to do at the right time. Even for our own budget, Nigeria, like I told you, the government is also a major spender. You need to know how government budgeting is done, you know, and what is it that government is doing. Is government spending more money to try and reflate the economy? How can I take advantage of that time and seizing what I need to do in my own business so I can also grow? You need to do that, okay? And how those cycle affects different sectors is also what we have done here. You can study this to just see which sector are you in, and or what industry are you in, and how do those cycles. The positives are the ones that can take advantage. For example, during recession, people will still make phone calls. People will still use electricity, okay? So anybody who is in the business of electricity or even selling generator, you know, essential goods, even things like food. So there are some goods and services that are very essential that it doesn't matter whether it's recession or not, people will still buy them. But there are some goods and services that are prone to recession. You need to know which one is your own business. And then you don't want to make investment in your own business that is prone to recession when the country or the economy is in a recession. You want to hold back till when we are coming out of the recession, then you know how to make that investment at the right time. That's very, very important. So these are just examples of those things that we just mentioned. We'll be taking a very short break so that you can just stretch yourself for about 5 minutes, and then we'll go into environmental assessment. How do you even read this economy? What are the things to look out for, you know? What are the various ways to help you? And then to do scenario planning. And we'll just take some 5 minutes time out to do that. Stretch yourself, please stand up, make sure that your body is circulating of some sort.
Thank you very much. Okay. I'm thinking, do we take question now?
Yes, you can also drop your questions at this point. Absolutely. Okay. So we can also answer them as we go. Please type your questions into a chat if you have any.
Okay. Thank you. If you have any questions, please drop it in the chat box. Also, if you would also like to speak, please raise your hand so we can go ahead and unmute you. Thank you. Okay, thank you. I think we're getting interaction here. Mr.
Yes, some questions.
Okay, all right. Which businesses are prone to recession?
Yes, we'll answer that. All right, so first thing to say is this. Because recessions means cutting back in spending, right? What you need to realize is that businesses that are into what people will call discretionary spending, if your business is into discretionary spending of consumers, discretionary means that when I have more money, I will do it, right? Then that business is prone to recession. If your business is in an essential area of need and services for consumers, you may not likely be prone to recession. So that's just a basic principle. And discretionary spending, we need to know, because every consumer group are quite different. Some things that we may consider discretionary spending for some group of consumers may not be discretionary spending for others. Let me give an example. When the telecommunication industry was starting in Nigeria, and we're having companies like MTN and Airtel, people thought that because our economy is third world and we are low-income economy, that those businesses will not do well. So a lot of the countries like the developed world, Europe, America, and all of that, where they had a lot of telecommunications businesses, they didn't come to Nigeria, they didn't come to Africa to bid for our license, because they thought that, oh, we'll not do well. These telecoms will not do well. Not knowing that because we are already a poor country where we don't have good road and infrastructure, mobility and movement was impeded. So we wanted to talk more. And by the time telecommunication services came, it was easy for us to talk more. Rather than me going to the village, I don't have a way of going to the village. I want to talk to my parents in the village. So the low-income countries began to talk more, because they don't have the facility to provide for social mobility and all of that. And that brought about huge profit for telecoms industry. Meanwhile, those who were the big players before didn't come in. So MTN, that was a small player in South Africa, suddenly became a global brand on the back of spreading out in Africa, where people can talk. So the kind of people you are dealing with, the kind of consumers, you need to study them and know what do they call discretionary spending. To a big man, telephone may be discretionary spending because he has other ways of which he can travel and all of that. But to a poor man, telephone may be an essential commodity, right? Not a discretionary spending. So you need to look at that and say, what is discretionary to these people? What would they cut back on? And if that is what you are producing, then you are likely to be impacted in a recession. And so that's what I would say for now, just as a characteristic. But if I'm going to be absolute, again, for example, hospitality business is prone to recession. Education is not. Again, depending on the education you are offering. If your education is high cost, right? A lot of these premium cost education institutions, you may have a decline in students' retention, because some students may say, oh, we can't afford the education at this time. So they look for a low cost education. So education is essential. People will always try and save money for education of their children, because they know that's what's going to help them for the future. So education is not prone to recession, particularly. Peter wants to add some contribution to that.
Okay, I thought it a very interesting question. And let me just also take a somewhat different dimension to it. If you look at a particular industry, for example, one of the participants indicated they are in health and wellness. And even though from a certain perspective, you can look at that as an industry, within that industry, there are portions that are almost recession-proof, and there are portions that are very prone to recession. For example, most people, your health and your physical health is a priority. Some people will starve because they you need to take some medicine to get well. So such fundamental life-saving medical treatment, so if you're in a pharmacy, those might be somewhat, I say somewhat, recession-proof. Now, it's true that some people may go back to more traditional remedies if the modern ones are expensive. But by and large, that's recession-proof. However, if you look at the wellness part of that health industry, wellness for several people is optional. If I'm walking, I'm talking, I'm able to go and come, that's good enough. So the gym, the vitamin supplement, etc., may be discretionary. and therefore very prone to recession. So even within that health and wellness industry, you may have a segment that is very highly recession-proof and another segment that is very prone to recession. So I thought to bring that perspective. So while you can see some industries generally are recession-proof or recession-proof, even within industries, there's some segmentation. I hope that was helpful in answering your question.
Thanks, Peter. Let me even try and get the person's Ayodele Wale. I hope that was helpful. We hope that answered your question. If not, you can still drop your comments in the chat box or raise your hand so we can unmute you. Thank you. Okay, so do we go ahead?
Yes, I think we'll continue. Peter will share his screen now.
All right, great, thank you.
Okay, I'll go ahead and do that. But I wanted to find out, Fisayo, you did say you at some point, I think you want a secondary survey. So do you want to do that at the end? Or
yes, that's actually at the end.
At the end, okay, that's
yes,
fine.
That's actually
okay.
So maybe once you're done, before we just quickly take that.
Okay, thank you very much. So again, now this is going to be somewhat brief because I can see we've gone in a session, but let me just quickly talk about environmental assessment and scenario planning framework. Now, please don't be scared if it sounds very technical. Let me start from a statement, a very important statement that Benga made. So please don't run away. This is not that technical or theoretical. Benga made a very important statement when he was speaking, and that was that too many business owners, and I think it's fundamental, it's worth thinking about, too many business owners sit inside their business only and not on top of their business. And the implication is that they are so involved in the operational details, they can't step back and look around at the environment and understand how the environment is impacting their business and also the opportunities that the environment provides. Now, I know that because of sometimes the shortage of expertise and skills, and frankly speaking, the level of distrust in our environment, sometimes business owners feel it is very necessary to sit in and be on top of everything inside their business. But there's always a cost to that. And that cost is in not being able to understand the environment and be able to look at what's the direction the environment is heading, and more importantly and more relevant for you, what does that direction mean for me and my business? And essentially, that's what the scenario planning is all about. It's about looking at your environment and understanding, first of all, my business. Where am I in my business? Am I just at the startup phase? Have I begun to grow? Am I at the point of maturity, or am I at that inflection point where the business has been mature for a while, and if I don't do something, it will either decline, or if I do something, it will revive? So where are you in your business trajectory? And then having understood that, so it's important to understand that, and having understood that, what are those forces around you in the environment that impacts on your business, and how do they impact on your business? And there's a very simple model for it. Again, don't be scared by a lot of the words there. It's a simple model called PESTLE. It's an acronym that stands for political aspects of the environment. We're looking at the entire environment now. The political environment, the economic environment, the social environment, the technological environment. Then the L is actually the legal environment, but we've excluded it for the purpose of this session. And then the final one is the environmental environment. So these 6 aspects of the environment impact on your organization and actually drive or determine the elements of the business cycle. So specifically for us now, talking about COVID-19 and the impact, COVID-19, which is a health issue, is really more of an environmental issue, because the environmental impact is both environment and health. And so the impact, the force of change in this case came primarily from environmental, i.e. health issues, the COVID pandemic and the scare, and how, as a result of the environmental impact, how many governments had to take political decisions to shut down, like we did in Lagos. And as a result of those political decisions to shut down, it began to impact the economy. So you can see how the various aspects of the environment interplay. The current downturn started with an environmental and a health impact. The COVID pandemic, and really for us here in Nigeria, is more of the fear of the pandemic, because even though, yes, there were some cases, etc. The reality is that while it's prudent to be cautious and to put all the preventive measures in place, thankfully the situation so far has not turned out to be as bad as many people predicted it would be. I mean, there's a prediction of people dying on the streets. Thank God it hasn't gone that far. But you see, the impact of that health and environment issue or challenge forced some political decisions to shut down, and those also affected the economy. And then again, social changes, because again, as a result of the health and environmental scare, people began to change the way they interacted. For example, I go back to the example, I don't know if there's anybody on here that is somebody's in hospitality. I don't know if that includes restaurants and food, etc. Because of the changes in socialization, that directly impacted hospitality businesses. It directly impacted, recreation, food businesses, etc. In fact, and even schools. So you see, these are different elements of the environment that, as a business owner, you want to understand what is going on and how does it impact my business. Now, the truth is, while this particular pandemic, the scale of the impact was very rapid. All of a sudden, we went from everything being normal in February to, by the end of March, everything is shut down. And that was quite sudden. Now, possibly, if there was somebody that was following the international news as a business person and observed that, hey, what was happening in Wuhan, which was where it started, that person could have projected to say, well, look, if this virus is as deadly as people say it may be, then potentially it is not just a Chinese matter. It could come out, it could spread, and proactively begin to take measures to say, how do I protect my business? How do I button down, etc. Okay, so although the spread was very rapid, so it didn't leave many people with much time, but potentially, if a business owner that had his eye or his hand on the environmental pulse would have been able to see something coming and act accordingly. Okay, so these are different aspects, elements of the environment that as a business owner, you need to understand and monitor for the impact and changes in those areas that may affect your own business. In the technology area, all of us are seeing, in fact, this training that is happening online is a product, in a sense, of the environmental changes that led to accelerated technological changes. So that many of you started meeting online. For most people, I'm sure, particularly in Nigeria and Lagos, you would have said, this thing will never take off. All these online meetings, the internet is too poor, it is too unreliable. But because of the force of change in the environmental sector as that took place, people were forced to make the technology work. So that when you're on Zoom, if it drops off, like I dropped off earlier on, you reconnect again and you reconnect again, but you have to do that. Now, several people don't want to go back. Many people that used to have to travel in traffic in Nigeria in Lagos for meetings have discovered the joy of online meetings. Now they don't bother, even though people are interacting more now, they are sticking to their online meetings. I was just, a friend of mine was telling me about a colleague who still does not take meetings and has been working from home since March, and is still working from home because of course, the impact on the pandemic, and is comfortable working with technology. So for you as a business, what are the technology changes? What are the implications of my business? If I'm in education, for example, now, like Benga said, if you had the foresight to see the direction education was going and you put the structure in place for online learning, then you were probably saved. And many of you could, at least, even though you couldn't charge your full fees, you could still have some income coming in because you had technology in place to continue teaching and educating your students, even though the lockdown was in place. Now, the question for you is that, okay, was that a fleeting situation? Can we now say, okay, well, from my understanding, many, if not most schools have resumed physical meeting. But are we now going to forget the technology platforms that have been provided or we have developed to educate? Or are you thinking about how can I, even in a post-COVID environment, leverage those technology platforms to provide more educational services additional remedial educational programs and courses so that I can extend what I'm already doing. Okay, and what's the implication of that for my business? Are there going to be schools in Nigeria that are fully online, and are some parents going to have a preference for that? I know that there are many parents now that, in spite of all this, they are still hesitant to allow their children to go back to school. And in fact, in my children's school, I was surprised when my daughter told me that in her school, even though they fully resumed on-site classes, there's still a category of students that the parents have insisted will continue online. So what is that? What's the implication of that? That's these new technology platforms. What are the implications for you? So that's that model. And again, I go back to the statement, the Benga's quote. Are you sitting inside your business and so involved in the operations that you are not able to look out? Because if you don't, then situations will continue to take you unaware, and it limits your ability to plan. So that's that. The other thing, and I'll just touch on briefly before I went back to Benga because of time, is looking at going further into scenario planning. When you understand the environment, then what you want to do, the real output for you is to say, okay, what is the most likely situation to happen? And how does that affect my business? So, how do I arrive at the most likely situation? What are the different optional scenarios that could play out? Are we going to very quickly go back to a full pre-COVID situation where everybody is interacting fully as normal? Many people will hope so, but there's a possibility that even though there's a restoration, it may not be as complete as pre-COVID. And so what does that scenario hold for you? What are the implications of that scenario? Okay, so what are the characteristics of a scenario where there's not a full return to the pre-COVID situation, when there is still some possible level of distancing that some people want to remain? What's the impact of that for you in your operations? In your class now, for example, for many of you that are educationists, your capacity has been cut in half because the government insisted on distancing in your classrooms. And so the classroom that could take 30, 25 students before now can only take maximum of 12 or 15. And if that persists, what is the implication? That scenario where that persists, what's the implication for your business? Are you going to have to invest in more infrastructure, or are you going to say, no more infrastructure, the other capacity, I will replace it with technology, online capacity? Okay, so that's what the scenario planning is all about. It's looking at the various possible scenarios that may play out as a result of the changes in the environment, and how do they impact you? And what should you do or can you do? Like I said, there's a little more detail in the materials that we hope we will make available later. But I wanted to just leave you with that thought because of time, so that Benga can come in and then begin to round up. So the important thought is that don't recognize that it is, no matter how tough your operations are, it's better to be sitting on top of your business with your hand in the operations than to be sitting inside your business fully immersed in the operations and not have a view of the environment. Understand the environment, the implications, and then with that understanding, you should be able to define what are the possible outcomes or scenarios that I may face, and what are the implications for my business. Okay, I hope that was useful. I hope that was clear. Like I said, there's some more detail, but I won't go into the technical aspect of it. And if you have any questions on this, please share them through the chat and we can answer them. And meanwhile, I will then hand over back to Benga, so we'll take us through the final segment.
Thank you, Peter. Before Benga comes on, or whilst he's trying to share his screen, there's actually a question here. I think maybe we can quickly take it in the chat box from Olabi. What is the explanation of individual person from government in case of turn down? Do you understand that question? What is the explanation of individual person from government in case of turn down? I'm not sure what that is, though.
Is it
Olabi,
the impact
do you
on
want to raise?
Or maybe you can elaborate a bit more.
I can't actually, because I don't know what she's trying to.
No, I'm actually asking the
Okay,
person.
yes. Olabi, could you please, maybe if you're still online, do you want to raise your hand? I'm going to ask you to unmute now if you can ask us that question.
Well,
Okay,
let
can
me
you hear
just,
us?
while we're waiting for you to speak, if you're what you mean is, if you're what you're meant to ask is, how is an individual impacted by downturn? Well, again, there's so many ways. Now, I don't know whether you're equating you as an individual with your business, okay? But you'll be
Hello.
surprised that, okay.
Hello, good
Someone,
afternoon. Hello.
okay, good afternoon.
I just want to know how government can come into individual personal business in case of downturn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so how can the government intervene in individual businesses? Okay,
Yes.
okay, that's okay. Thank you very much. Well, again, that's very interesting because they're very relevant. And I'll answer it from two perspectives. One is, right now there are some. I hesitate to use this word, but unfortunately I can't find another word. There are some palliatives. Now you understand why I said I hesitate to use the word. It has become a dirty word in Nigeria. But there are some palliatives that the government has already announced for business people. For example, I don't know if you're aware, the CBN has a program to give out. Now, I think it is through the bank. So maybe if Isaiah can elaborate on that. I know government is planning for several should I say soft or favorable condition loans and sometimes grants for businesses to help out. So there are some things some measures like that that have already been announced. And I'm sure that if you reach out to the bank, to Accion, they can steer you in the direction of, what those are and how you can work with them to take advantage of them. So again, if Isaiah wants to elaborate later on, she can do so. So there are several already announced palliatives or interventions. So let me change palliatives to interventions that the government has planned and has announced, okay? But I would say beyond that, there's some that may not be as obvious that you may still seek out. The government is also investing a lot in training people, capacity development, sometimes free. And there are several international organizations that are also sponsoring them. Why is that relevant? Again, we talked about, pivoting your business or developing capacity in your business. So sometimes the solution or the answer or part of the answer is more skills. When you acquire more skills or some of your staff acquire more skills to be able to offer different services or to offer the services or products you're offering now in a better way. And again, there are several programs subsidized that do that. So I hope that answers your question a little bit. I don't know if I also come in to make a comment there.
Yeah, thanks a lot. We would go into the details in terms of what the bank is doing to help pushing the effect of the palliative after the presentation. So I just want us to go into another question very quickly because I think it's important that we make it very interactive. So from Lillian Akune, she wants to find out for those of us in hospitality,
Yes.
event management, to be precise, which may be highly affected by inflation. What is your advice? So what are your advice in terms of managing the business for people in hospitality and events management?
Yeah, that's a very important question, and I had hoped I was going to address that as we talk about the repositioning for business growth. Essentially, the events management business has been really affected, but that's also the beauty. In the midst of crisis, opportunities show up. Okay, so it's about understanding how to take advantage of opportunities. Before now, events managers thought that they were managing events that are physical. And yes, to a large extent, events will largely remain physical. But you must recognize the fact that events are also transitioning into the virtual world. So as we speak today now, Peter and I are members of an institution called Chartered Institute of Personnel Management, CIP. We oversee, it's the body that oversees the professionalization of human resources. And we're holding our annual conference as we speak. When we were holding this conference physically, the highest number of attendees that the conference has attracted has been around 2,600 or 2,800 participants. And the only facilities that are available really to accommodate such large numbers of people are based in major cities like Lagos or Abuja. Those are the two major cities, really. And so the conference has been taking place in Abuja for quite a while. But this year, the conference has been moved online. And the attendance is well over 6,000 people. 6,000. Not only is it well over 6,000 people, it actually cuts across different countries in Africa who may have always wanted to participate in the conference but could not for travel arrangement purposes and logistics. So during this COVID period, a lot of events managers began to think through how can they redefine their event management service provision from physical to virtual. And I can tell you, I have attended wedding ceremonies online. I've attended naming ceremonies online. I've attended burials online. I've attended burials in the US, in Nigeria, online. Now I'm talking about a conference that is going on online. And we're holding this webinar, and there are many of such webinars that go on online. So event managers need to rethink, what exactly is my proposition? What do I offer? What skill do I have? And how do I sell that proposition? As part of event management, you have people they call compares. You have musicians. Many of these events I've attended, you still have the musicians and you still have the compare. And the compares are the ones that facilitate the entire conversation, the discussion. They still provide their jokes, they still make the event lively. The musicians still play their music as interludes when it's required. So there's still that whole business model of event management, and there's this proposition. So they are now leveraging technology. So for an events manager, what is important for you to realize is, what is my real value proposition? What are my assets? What are the things that I know to do? And how do I transition? How do I extend that? How do I transition that? Or how do I even pivot that into something else? If I'm not doing events management, what else can I be doing based on the skills that I have, based on the contacts that I have, based on the assets that I have, you know? And so when you begin to understand these things, then it helps you to address your immediate challenges to be able to meet the future challenges that you are faced with.
And if I may just quickly add, what Benga described also brings up an additional implication that harks back to what I said earlier when I was talking about understanding the environment and scenario planning. For this kind of event manager that I talked about, you may need to acquire a new set of skills or additional skills to be able to do that, because events online require sometimes, again, I'm thinking about one or two that I'm aware of, a coordination of both online and on-site. Remember I told you that there are some birthdays where food packs were delivered, gift packs were delivered in homes. Interestingly, my child participated in a birthday party where, as the party was on, maybe no sooner had it started, and I think it was very deliberate, 30 minutes into the online party, the food and gift pack arrived. So that, and it arrived in in the houses of all the children that way, so that they got their gift pack while they were online with their friend, and they could appreciate, they could open it up, they could celebrate the gifts in it, etc. So that there's a certain type of coordination and skill that is required there. So my point is that in pivoting and in extending your business model, you may also need to acquire new additional skills, and you shouldn't be shy to do that, either yourself or some of your employees. And again, where available, take advantage of opportunities provided by the government to provide such skills free of charge. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we should take the last bit so I can then respond.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Makonjola, I still have you noted. Once the Pendefia team are done with this last section, we'll take your question. Thank you very much for your patience.
All right, thank you all. And we'll be going through the last mode of this session. But let me also mention that this course is running 2 days. So we're having another 2 hours tomorrow. Is that correct, Fisaya?
Absolutely.
Yes, and that's going to be a bit more discussion and engagement based. So by the time we're ending this, as part of our final slides, we have like a worksheet I hope that the worksheets can be available online on the bank's website. So participants will be expected to go online and click on the worksheet and, if possible, download it. And the worksheet is just essentially sets of questions.
Do they need the worksheets before tomorrow? Sorry to cut you.
Yes, they do.
Okay. So I think I would have to liaise with Tokumbo so we can have a way to host it and send it out to them before tomorrow's session.
If you can also send it to them by WhatsApp, depending on how they linked into this session, it's okay. And it's just a worksheet. So all they just read the questions and try to use that to stimulate their answers and their own areas, and that's what we're going to be using for conversations tomorrow. So tomorrow will be a lot more conversation style, feedback like we're doing here, so that we're more specific to the individual areas of requirement, as opposed to this one where we're just giving and sharing some knowledge.
Okay, great, thanks.
All right, so let's go to the final conversation, which is around how businesses now reposition for recovery and growth. But before we do that, I would like to just mention that even as a bank, Accion, this article, the bank was featured in the recent Forbes Africa Nigeria at 60 edition. Of course, there were other institutions that were featured, but Accion Bank was featured, and the managing director, in the person of Mr. Taiwo, was kind of interviewed in that Forbes magazine. And I caught this, and I just thought I should also bring it to the attention of our business SME customers, that as a bank, Accion recognizes the cyclical nature of business, and they also need to do things in response to that. I'm just going to quickly read the excerpt. So Accion was established in 2016, and it has become one of the largest microfinance banks in the country. It's currently led by the CEO, Taiwo, an accomplished business leader with over 27 years of extensive experience in advocacy, strategy formulation, capacity building, and creating strategic partnerships in the microfinance and digital finance ecosystem. So these are the competencies that he brings to the job, and I also expect that he would institutionalize within the bank. But he was making reference to the governor of Central Bank, Godwin Emefiele, and look at what he said here.
Sorry to cut you in. This was we actually cannot see your screen. It's actually very little, like it's not legible at all.
What are you using? What device are you using?
I'm using my laptop.
Everybody else is seeing it.
Okay, well, it's actually been very, very, you can go ahead, because I actually dropped in the group chat. This I can't even see what you're saying about Taiwo. Maybe, okay, Tokumbo says she can see it. Okay, I'll try with another device then.
You must be looking out to your end.
Okay.
Everybody else is seeing it. Yeah, so that Jonah was saying that Central Bank Governor Godwin Emefiele has announced a 5-year economic plan to recapitalize Nigerian banks, and that Accion Microfinance Bank is already ready. They are already ahead of the curve to achieve the next level of banking and microfinance. Now look at what he said, and I deliberately underlined that statement. He said, capital is crucial for organizations to absorb the cyclical fluctuations that come from the economy. Now that word cyclical fluctuations essentially is just saying the business cycles that come around from the economy. Capital is crucial. Banks need to have sufficient capital as a base to be able to weather through recession or growth. Okay, so Jola says that the COVID-19 crisis is serving as a prime example. It's important to drive confidence in the economy and the microfinance sector so that all players in the industry are comfortable. Now, if you remember, I used the word industry. Industry again referring to the sellers alone. Okay, but the microfinance sector or market is now both the consumers and the sellers coming together. So it says Central Bank has requested that the National Microfinance Bank category should be fully capitalized to the tune of 5 billion. It used to be 2 billion, but they are saying they must increase their capitalization to 5 billion by 2021. And he is glad to announce that even by 2019, they have already closed at that number. So again, what the banking sector is doing, what Central Bank is doing, apart from Central Bank, of course, influencing the economy and the size and structure of the economy, they also regulate the banks, right? And what the bank, central bank is saying to all these banks is, we want you to have a sufficiently big portfolio, capital structure, so that you can lend from your own money, shareholders' funds, to the consumers. You know, we have the wherewithal to enable and empower businesses and individuals to have money to spend for productive perspective. So, as a bank, Accion Microfinance Bank recognizes that the business cycles need them to make some decisions. Now, one thing that you must realize also as a business is that you must know how to treat your profits. Many businesses, because they are making good profits during the time of the economic expansion, during the time of growth, they take all that profit, pay it out as dividend, and then they enjoy life, forgetting to make some reserves or plow back the money to the business, you know, because there will always be a downturn, there will always be a recession that you now need to draw from your savings, you know, from the investments that you have already put in place to cushion the effect of that recession. So many decisions that you need to do or make depends on these business cycles. And if you don't really understand these business cycles, you will be a businessman that will be susceptible to the vagaries of the economy, and you just be hit left, right, and center without really knowing what to do. And that may bring panic, you know, and if you start making decisions under panic, it may also lead to worse outcomes. So we're trying to bring this to your knowledge to show you that for better information, for better structure, look at your environment, study the economic cycles, make the right decisions, don't eat all of your profit, plow some money back. So if the Accion Bank is giving you some investment type product and services, take those investments, buy them at the right time from your profits, keep the money in place, let it generate some yield, so that when the recession does happen, you can still be cushioned, you know, from the effects of that recession, so that you can then build your business going forward to weather the storm. And I think these are very important things to note for us as business owners. So in terms of what are the things that we can do, particularly because of this COVID-19 crisis, there are 3 things here. This is from Deloitte Touche to Master. They say, look, respond, recover, and thrive. Try and do these 3 things. I will explain what they're saying. Just like we said in the person that was lost in the woods, stop and just think, you know, look around you. Respond is saying, deal with the present situation and try and manage continuity. Don't let the situation of the environment bring you down. Many businesses will be surprised that you may have some assets that are excess capacity, or what I would call non-income bearing assets. Maybe over the years you just bought those things that are there and you're not really doing anything with them, you're not optimizing your assets. You may need to look at them. You may need to do a thorough review of your business to say, what is it that we are going through now and why, and what is it that we can cut out, you know, and liquidate. Sometimes you even have capital in your hands, you don't know you have capital, and you don't know how to convert that capital into liquidity that can help you generate more business or at least keep you afloat. So again, what your capital is, to understand. You can have assets that are fixed and therefore you can't convert them to cash. They don't help you to transact easily. Money. Cash flow is very important for businesses, and we can explain some of those things to you and what you need to do as a business. Then recover, learning and emerging stronger, learning the lessons from what has happened, being able to build new capacity, build new skills, add on new complementary services or businesses that you need to do. Again, apart from what Peter was saying to some of these restaurants, you'll be surprised that some restaurants that I know went into the business of training. As a restaurant provider, they already were cooking certain meals, they already had recipe, they already had all the kitchen utensils, but then you're no longer having customers walk into your restaurant. These customers, these businesses started going to learn how to use Instagram, Instagram and Facebook, and they started making posts of recipes, started making posts of videos of how to cook certain meals. And before you know it, their circle of influence, their friends, families, church members, customers who knew them before, who now link them and share them with other people, start to begin to watch their videos and watch their recipe making, and that customer engagement and enjoyment that begins to happen is one way of marketing yourself. And just like you mentioned that people can order food and they do deliveries, when you see them prepare these things, you see what they're saying, you see how they're giving you those benefits, you can still order, because it's one thing to teach a man to make a recipe, but the person is not an expert. He can't even make that food tasty. But he has seen it on the video, he wants it, he desires it, he says, let me order for this thing. Give me one, give me two, let me taste it. Some even went to combining their restaurant business with information, like providing health tips, telling people about what time to eat, what time not to eat, what not to eat, giving additional value-added services. So that when they weather, for example, the storm of recession, and they are able to open back to the public, they would have gained more customer base from those who have engaged them online during that period when things were downturned. So understanding what else you can do, what is my asset, what can I do, what can I learn, how can I recover and emerge stronger than what it is that I've been doing now will be very important. And of course, thriving is then preparing success for the new normal. The new normal is upon us, and the world is not going to change. We're just going to change for the better, and we need to adapt to it. So one thing we need to do as a business is business continuity planning. Again, it's just basic things. Even though some of these things may sound too structured for you, your own small business, just take it in your mind that it's some level of knowledge we're saying you need to have. You don't have to be like a First Bank, or even as big as structured as Accion Bank. You don't have to be like the telcos, or even the retail stores like Health Plus or Spa, that have a lot of management staff. Maybe just 3 or 5 of you. All we are saying is understand these things in your mind and use them as a concept. You don't have to write them down in big reports, but just get a piece of paper and think through them. That thinking process will help you seek ideas, and find new, fresher things that you can do. So it says here, identify, analyze, design, execute, and measure. Try and look at your business from a continuity standpoint. Do what is called the risk assessment. From what Peter was talking about, the environmental factors. There are many environmental factors that are beyond your control. You cannot control them. There are things that will just happen. But then the important thing is don't let them happen to you unaware. Anticipate them, or at least be aware of them, and then choose how am I going to respond to them if they do occur. What will be the severity of this thing if it does occur? What will be the impact of it on my business if it does occur? What's the probability that this thing will occur? All those kinds of questions are things you have to put at the back of your mind, looking out for. So analyze, do an analysis of your business and all of that, and come up with action plans. So these are things that you can do. Again, they are going to be available online for us, study them, and to engage with them. And that's just a sample of the question, a template that you can put in place when it comes to business impact. Now, again, responding or recovery, you need to understand who are your customers. What do they need? What do my customers really want? And then get your cash flow in order. Cash flow is like your blood flow. That's what is our underlying blood. I think Doc is at the gate. Then reorganizing your supply chain. We're thinking the workforce. Do I need to have all this staff all the time? As a business, for us, in our consulting business, we went through a recession in 2008, 2009. If you remember what was called the global credit crunch, Nigeria went through a recession in 2008, 2009. And what we did then was that we tried to minimize the structure of our workforce. We used to have employees on full time that were consultants, and we had a huge payroll. But we were a project-based organization. So we decided, no. Since we're a project-based organization and our projects are not always all the time, then we will put people as associates, and they will be like part-time. When we have projects, we resource our projects, and we pay for the projects, and when we are through, we release them, we don't have any overhead. And we've been doing that. How can you use digital for your business? And then, of course, what are the channels you need, and what kind of workplace? Today now, the workplace is no longer the physical office. The workplace can still be your home. The store doesn't have to be your physical store. The store can be your Instagram store, and all of those things are things you need to look at to help you recover, assess them and begin to think through. So reflect on what you have and what are you doing, and then try and see how you can restart them, and revitalize them by doing those things. The template they're going to be sharing with you has questions in all of these areas, and as you answer those questions, it will expand your thinking and your orientation in that regard. Okay? Of course, you want to do this because of rapid revenue recovery. You want to try and get back your revenue and bring back your finances, bring it back to speed. And let me just mention this. These are some short-term things you can do: promotions and pricing. You can do promotions. You can go on e-commerce. Some people are able to go to e-commerce like Jumia, put their products in those kinds of places, so that you don't even have to have your own store for yourself. You can do a lot of customer experience activities. There's, of course, scaled digital services. You can merge. You can do mergers and acquisition, or go to a merger with other companies, as the case may be. Then there's also something we call here the start. It's called the start mentality. It's a mental model. Think like you're a startup. Many businesses are too comfortable, Think like as if you're a startup. Always have that startup mindset. Do a lot of research, Try and make sure you test and do analysis and see what you can do differently. And work with your team regularly. Make the people to be at the core of your business. A lot of our staff, we know many things that we don't know, that we get information from them, and they will also be involved in helping us to rethink our model, how to do things differently. Then, of course, accelerate digital. Try and use technology all the time, and make sure that you are using technology in your business. All right. So cash flow improvement. Try to make sure that you look at your cash, your expenditure, manage your expenditure, and then if you can structure your balance sheet, do that. Let me just mention this as one of the last points. There is an institution that the central bank has created, and I think Accion can also help a lot of our SMEs with this. It's called the National Registry, the Movable Asset Registry. Movable Asset Registry. What does that mean? It means that for many people who think they don't have collateral, you actually have collateral for cash to get loans. You can use your mobile assets now as collateral for your cash flow. So you can go to the mobile registry and indicate that I have machinery. If you're a baking company, you can use your baking equipment, your mixers, your oven. If you are into fishery, you can use your freezers, your generator, even your car. You can take all of these things and register them with the mobile asset registry, and you can value them and allow you to unlock value for these things. Unlock value means that you can get credit, cash flow against those assets to help you restart your business, to be able to help you build the working capital you need. Many of us, because of how we are about to spend money and we're not able to generate income, and we have all these assets, but we don't have the working capital, we're not able to buy our business again. You can unlock capital with these assets, and the asset will still belong to you. All that the institution wants to know is, are you the owner? When did you buy it? What is the value? And you can unlock that asset for you, give you some money to start generating your transactions. And hopefully, with that, you can get your business back on the line. Thank you. The next 2 minutes is just to give you a walkthrough on the activity worksheet. They're going to make the worksheet available to you online. This will inform our business, our conversations for tomorrow, again from 10 o'clock to 12. And we just hope that by the time you are looking at these questions, like I said, the questions are around this model that I've just shown to you. Again, to stimulate your thinking and help you to look at how to do your business differently based on this current recession. But the recession will soon be over, and we're going to go to growth. So you can prepare yourself for growth. So you will find some questions around reflect, restart, and revitalize. That's what you will find. Reflect, restart, and revitalize. So understanding your customer, reflect. Are your customers aware of the impact of your business? Are you aware of the impact to your customers? Are you aware of how it affects your business? These questions, try and answer them and put your thoughts together. Okay, restart. How are you reconnecting with your customer base? Now that we are back at this, we're trying to restart our economy. How are you reconnecting? What are you trying to do to reconnect? Are you using online? Are you using physical? Are you using discounting? what are the ways that your customer opportunities that are facing your business, you know, and what channels is your business adopting to move forward. So when you read all these questions, try and answer them in your mind, and then tomorrow we'll be using them to have conversations. Bring your own challenge, your own personal challenges and your own issues, and then we'll talk together and try and address them. So there are quite a couple of questions, but each of those areas, let me just quickly go to the structure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think we have about 5, right? We start at technology. So for each of those areas, we will have 3 questions. All right. So this one is reflect, 1 for customer, restart, number 2, and then revitalize, number 3. When you're able to answer the questions and you capture your thoughts on your plan, then you put the plan into some kind of work plan. We want you to have a work plan. That's for you, okay, for your own future use. Have a work plan around whatever your ideas are. Then if you get to cash flow, again, we will have 3 sets of questions: reflect, restart, and revitalize. When you answer those questions, come up with a work plan. That's the way the activity is done. And it's very simple. They're very simple questions that will help you to rethink your business and hopefully to know how you can begin to get yourself ready for the growth that will come very shortly once the economy starts to stimulate itself and grow. Thank you for your listening, and let me hand you over back to Fisayo and her team. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. It's actually been a very interactive session for me, and I've really learned a lot. And I hope the participants, I hope you guys have also learned a lot. We'll take questions and comments. If you would like to speak, please raise your hand so we can unmute you, or drop it in the chat box. Regarding the palliatives, as Olabi mentioned, which is actually like a very funny word right now. So we have a couple of thank you, Esther. And if you have feedbacks as well, we would love to get your feedback. In fact, while I'm talking about feedback, can we have the second poll come up, please? Can we have the second poll come up so that the participant can take it? Also, drop your feedback and your comments in the chat box. What did you think about the facilitator? What do you think about this initiative that Accion Microfinance Bank has done? Do you think it's a good one? Should we do something else? Thank you. So while we're talking about that, so there are actually a couple of measures that Accion, your bank, has put in place to help cushion the effect of the pandemic and also provide you with resources to thrive during this period. So one of them is the moratorium. Tokumbo can shed more light on that while she's giving her closing remarks. So we've done that moratorium, I think, for school owners. And then also we have a virtual platform, which is the Accion Konnect series. I don't know if any of you have attended one of that. We've had about, I think, over 10 episodes where we've been able to provide insights and information for all our customers needed to thrive. We've had a medical doctor join us online. We've had an SME doctor join us. We've had a business analyst join us. If you've not, please follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and that's where we post all these communications. So please follow us on those platforms so you can have access to all these virtual events and all these other events that are coming up as well. So another initiative that we've done is we understand that because of the pandemic, a lot of us could not open our shops, and therefore the sales actually reduced tremendously. So what we've done is we've partnered with Jumia to actually help support us and onboard us on their platform so that we can sell. We don't have to have a physical location to sell. Whilst we have a physical location, we want you to also expand online and have more customers and sell and then increase your profits. So if you're interested in that, what we're going to do is we would actually send in your details to the Jumia team, and then they will take you through the onboarding process. They'll send you an email, follow up with phone calls. So we'll send your details out to the Jumia team before the end of the week. And then also, we also have Olabi, could you please stop sharing, please? So that we can put up some of those flyers. Thank you very much. We have the poll questions still up. Please fill the poll questions. If you have any feedback, please drop it in the chat box. You know, we want to hear from you. We want to know did you think this session was a good one? Was it interesting? What can we do differently? What can we do better? So I've talked about the Jumia initiative. We'll send in your details to the Jumia team, and then we'll take you from there offline. And then also we have, we also want you to stay safe while you have access to some of our products. So we've digitized our digital loan. So there's a digital loan, it's called the Brighter loan. So this gives you access to about 150,000 naira loan without even coming to the branch. So if you're interested in that as well, just go to ibanking.accionmfb.com. Be dropped in the, can I have that dropped in the group chat, please? The iBanking link, so that people can have access to the Brighter digital loan from any convenience. And then also, the Pendexia team mentioned that they want us to do, like I mentioned, this is a 2-day class, so tomorrow is going to be very interactive. It's going to be we're going to have more case studies and all that. So we need to do like a little bit of homework. We have your information. I hope we all registered. If we did not register, can I get the technical team drop the link to register? Please register so that we can have your details. At the end of the session, maybe in an hour or two, we will send out the reading materials, the assignment materials as well. We'll send it to your email so you can access them from there as well. Thank you. So if you've not registered, can I have the registration link here so that they can register? We don't want to lose anybody or drop anybody off. Thank you very much. The second poll is still up, so please take it. It's like I mentioned, it's actually quite simple. Did the training meet your objective? Do you think the training was relevant to your business? Did the facilitator communicate? Did they communicate effectively? Did the facilitators use real life or relatable content, to drive home the message? Thank you very much. So please, we would like you to take the poll. It's really important to us. Thank you. Ayodele Waliu, I see your comment here. This is an interesting session. Good job, Accion MFB. God bless Accion. Thank you so much. Esther, we can see you. Great presentation. Thank you very much. Tokumba, are you still online? So before Tokumba joins us, like I mentioned, this is actually a 2-day class. So we're going to be having the second session tomorrow. And then we do hope that you can join us. We'll send you an email with the homework for us to do tonight, and then we'll also send you an SMS to remind you first thing tomorrow about the session, so you don't forget about it. Would also appreciate. Okay, so I see for Lashade's hand up. Yes, I also have Makonjola hand up. So let me just quickly go ahead and unmute for Lashade. Hi, for Lashade, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I want to appreciate all that I have heard, though I had challenges connecting. The connectivity was like very poor from my end. Eventually, I was able to join. And I want to, how will I put it? I want to say, even the COVID and the situation we are going through, there are pros and there are cons. There are fallouts that have been positive and negative. And in my industry, I see a change of attitude where because we cannot move and you cannot go out, a lot of colleagues in the industry, the pharma industry, are now used to sending out dispatch riders, bringing in the drugs, home deliveries, and whatever, and this has multiplied. You understand? And when you're doing that, you're getting your money. You're getting your money up front. So yes, for me, I've been asking my Accion. I need a 9% interest, COVID interest, because I see an opportunity to expand my business at the moment, but I'm not getting a positive feedback. And I'm wondering what next to do. That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Falashade, could you please drop your full name, your branch, and your phone number in the chat box? No, just type it out for us, please.
Sorry? Okay.
Can you type it? Yes, just type it. Okay, your full name, your branch location, and your telephone number. We would take the conversation offline. Thank you very much. Thank you. We hope you'll be able to join us tomorrow as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. I think that's all. Okay, all right, Tokumbo. Like I mentioned, please, can we have the tech team? Can you please drop the Google form again for some of them that maybe did not register? If you've registered before, that's fine. You don't have to do it again. But if you haven't, please register so we can send you the materials for tomorrow. And then also, I think for that, then some other people joined us late, so they might have missed some of the part. Don't worry. After this session, we're going to host it on the website, and then that's why we need you to register, and then we'll send an email, an SMS to all the registered participants so that they can go ahead and get access to those materials again. Thank you. So if you've not registered before, please register. Can I have the Google form dropped in the chat box, please? Thank you. Go ahead, Tokumbo.
Thank you, Adefisayo. Thank you all for taking out time of your busy schedule to join the day one of our 2 days exclusive training for our customers. Please join the concluding part of the training tomorrow. It starts by 10 o'clock. It promises to be more engaging and insightful, so please make it a date with us. I would like to quickly talk about the moratorium Fisayo mentioned. So one of the things the bank did during the pandemic to cushion the effect for our customers was to grant them moratorium. So what is moratorium? Moratorium is a process whereby the bank gives customers time to repay their loan, because we know that it was impossible for most of them, because they were not making sales, it was impossible for them to pay back their loans. So we granted them grace period. So it's a grace period whereby we give customers to defer their repayment. What we also did was, for those that were even paying during the lockdown, we were able to give them discounts on their interest rates. The rate they were supposed to pay for their next loan was actually discounted. So these were some of the things the bank did to cushion the effect for our customers during the pandemic. Once again, we want to let you know that empowering to greater heights is what we stand for in Accion. So we thank you, and we hope to see you tomorrow at the same time. Thank you.
Tokumbo, thank you very much. Thank you, dear participants. We hope, like I mentioned, we still have the link in the chat box. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, we have the link in the chat box. If you've not registered, please do so that we can have access to share some of those things with you. Thank you very much. So we'll see you tomorrow.
Open accounts with Accion to save for tomorrow. There's an easy way to bag every day. Hey, star 572 hash. Now here we go. I know get wahala. Oh, it's a life. Oh, money on me go. Star 572 hash. Oh, get a life. Oh, but the flow is bright. Family and friends and business partners on top your phone. Wherever you are, whatever you do, hey, pay your bills and recharge your phone.
Accion Bank will go phone. Piano star 572 ash.
When you're learning, I look at your food. I can Accion Bank dinner.
Má ṣe ìyọnu láti lọ sí ilé ìfowópamọ́, ìwọ ṣáà ti tẹ star 572 hash lórí ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ rẹ.
Accion Microfinance Bank. My future is bright.
Nítòótọ́, ṣé pé tí mo bá ṣí àkáǹtì pẹ̀lú Accion wá máa máyé rọrùn fún mi?
Ina son iya karɓar kuɗin Accion Bank na yi amfani kai ƙara kasuwa ta.
Chai, Accion Bank ń kọ́ra ní ATM card.
No need to stress, I no need the stress. With Accion Microfinance Bank, I deal with the best, I no settle for less. Bank where they make your life better. With checking the money, you fit open account. Save money now to pay your bills. And you fit to get the loan to grow your business. Well, my future is bright, oh. My future is bright, oh. With Accion, with Accion, oh. My future is bright, oh. With Accion, with Accion, oh. My future is bright, oh. With Accion, with Accion, oh. My future is bright, oh. It's bright, oh.
Accion Microfinance Bank. My future is bright.
Accion, star 572 hash. Na the code Accion, star 572 hash. Honey, go. on top your phone. Wherever you are, whatever you do, hey, pay your bills and recharge your phone.
Accion Bank we kugo kun. Piano star 572 ash.
When you are
má ṣe ìyọnu láti lọ sí ilé ìfowópamọ́ ìwọ ṣáà ti tẹ star 572 hash lórí ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ rẹ.
Accion Microfinance Bank. My future is bright.
Nítòótọ́, ṣé pé tí mo bá ṣí àkáǹtì pẹ̀lú Accion wá máa máyé rọrùn fún mi?
Ina son iya karɓar kuɗin Accion banki na yi amfani kai ƙara kasuwa ta.
Chai, Accion Bank nwere na ATM card.
No need to stress, I no need the stress. With Accion Microfinance Bank, I deal with the best, I no settle for less. Bank where they make it life better. With shaking the money, you fit open account. Save money now to pay your bills. And you fit to get it loan to grow your business. Well, my future is bright, oh. My future is bright, oh. With Accion Bank. With Accion, oh. My future is bright, oh. With Accion Bank. With Accion, oh. My future is bright, oh. With Accion Bank. With Accion, oh. My future is bright, oh. Is bright, oh.
Accion Microfinance Bank. My future is bright.
Hey, Accion, star 572 hash. Now the code Accion, star 572 hash. On the go. Open accounts with Accion to save for tomorrow. There's an easy way to bank every day. Hey, star 572 hash. Now hear me the code. I know get to wahala. On top your phone, wherever you are, whatever you do, hey, pay your bills and recharge your phone.
Accion Bank we kugo kun. Piano star 572 ash.
When you are
má ṣe ìyọnu láti lọ sí ilé ìfowópamọ́ ìwọ ṣáà ti tẹ star 572 hash lórí ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ rẹ.
Accion Microfinance Bank. My future is bright.
Nítòótọ́, ṣé pé tí mo bá ṣí àkáǹtì pẹ̀lú Accion wá máa máyé rọrùn fún mi?
Ina son iya karɓar kuɗin Accion banki na yi amfani kai ƙara kasuwa ta.
Chai, Accion Bank nwere na ATM card.
No need to stress, I no need the stress. With Accion Microfinance Bank, I deal with the best, I no settle for less. Bank where they make it life better. With shaking the money, you fit open account. Save money now to pay your bills. And you fit to get it loan to grow your business. Well, my future is bright, oh. My future is bright, oh. With Accion Bank. With Accion, oh. My future is bright, oh. With Accion Bank. With Accion, oh. My future is bright, oh. With Accion Bank. With Accion, oh. My future is bright, oh. Is bright, oh.
Accion Microfinance Bank. My future is bright.
Hey, Accion, star 572 hash. Now the code Accion, star 572 hash. On the go. Open accounts with Accion to save for tomorrow. There's an easy way to bank every day. Hey, star 572 hash. Now hear me the code. I know get to wahala. On top your phone, wherever you are, whatever you do, hey, pay your bills and recharge your phone.
Accion Bank we kugo kun. Piano star 572 ash.
Má ṣe ìyọnu láti lọ sí ilé ìfowópamọ́ ìwọ ṣáà ti tẹ star 572 hash lórí ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ rẹ.
Accion Microfinance Bank. My future is bright.
Ní tòótọ́, ṣé pé tí mo bá ṣí àkáǹtì pẹ̀lú Accion wá máa máyé rọrùn fún mi?
Ina son iya karɓar kuɗin Accion banki na yi amfani kai ƙara kasuwa ta.
Chai, Accion bank nwere ni ATM card.
No need to stress, I no need the stress. With Accion Microfinance Bank, I deal with the best, I no settle for less. Bank where they make your life better. You checking the money, you fit open account. Save money now to pay your bills. And you fit to get the loan to grow your business. Well, my future is bright, oh. My future is bright, oh. With Accion Bank. With Accion, oh. My future is bright, oh. With Accion Bank. With Accion, oh. My future is bright, oh. With Accion Bank. With Accion, oh. My future is bright, oh. Is bright, oh.
Accion Microfinance Bank. My future is bright.
Accion, star 572 hash. Now the code Accion, star 572 hash. On the go. Open account with Accion to save for tomorrow. There's an easy way to bag every day. Hey, star 572 hash. Now here we go. I know get to wahala. Oh, it's a life. Oh, money on me go. On top your phone, wherever you are, whatever you do, hey, pay your bills and recharge your phone.
Accion Bank where kugo kun. Piano star 572 ash.
Má ṣe ìyọnu láti lọ sí ilé ìfowópamọ́ ìwọ ṣáà ti tẹ star 572 hash lórí ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ rẹ.
Accion Microfinance Bank. My future is bright.
Ní tòótọ́, ṣé pé tí mo bá ṣí àkáǹtì pẹ̀lú Accion wá máa máyé rọrùn fún mi?
Ina son iya karɓar kuɗin Accion banki na yi amfani kai ƙara kasuwa ta.
Chai, Accion bank nwere ni ATM card.
No need to stress, I no need the stress. With Accion Microfinance Bank, I deal with the best, I no settle for less. Bank where they make your life better. You checking the money, you fit open account. Save money now to pay your bills. And you fit to get the loan to grow your business. Well, my future is bright, oh. My future is bright, oh. With Accion Bank. With Accion, oh. My future is bright, oh. With Accion Bank. With Accion, oh. My future is bright, oh. With Accion Bank. With Accion, oh. My future is bright, oh. Is bright, oh.
Accion Microfinance Bank. My future is bright.
Accion, star 572 hash. Now the code Accion, star 572 hash. On the go. Open account with Accion to save for tomorrow. There's an easy way to bag every day. Hey, star 572 hash. Now here we go. I know get to wahala. Oh, it's a life. Oh, money on me go. Family and friends and business partners on top your phone, wherever you are, whatever you do, hey, pay your bills and recharge your phone.
Accion Bank where kugo kun. Piano star 572 ash.
Má ṣe ìyọnu láti lọ sí ilé ìfowópamọ́ ìwọ ṣáà ti tẹ star 572 hash lórí ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ rẹ.
Accion Microfinance Bank. My future is bright.
nítòótọ́ ṣé pé tí mo bá ṣí àkáǹtì pẹ̀lú Accion wọ́n máa máyé rọrùn fún mi.
Ina son iya karɓar kuɗin Accion banki na yi amfani kai ƙara kasuwa ta.
Chai, Accion bank nwere na ATM card.
No need to stress, I no need the stress. With Accion Microfinance Bank, I deal with the best, I no settle for less. Bank where they make your life better. With checking the money, you fit open accounts. Save money now to pay your bills. And you fit to get a loan to grow your business. Well, my future is bright, oh. My future is bright, oh. With Accion Bank. With Accion, oh. My future is bright, oh. With Accion Bank. With Accion, oh. My future is bright, oh. With Accion Bank. With Accion, oh. My future is bright, oh. Is bright, oh.
Accion Microfinance Bank. My future is bright.
Hey, Accion, star 572 hash. Na the code. Accion, star 572 hash. Money go. Open account with Accion to save for tomorrow. There's an easy way to bag every day. Hey, star 572 hash. Now hear me the code. I know get to a holla. Oh, it's a life. Oh, money on me go. Star 572 hash. Oh, get a life. Oh, but the flow is bright. Star 572 hash. Send money to family and friends and business partners on top your phone. Wherever you are, whatever you do, hey, pay your bills and recharge
Jiri
your
ni
phone.
Accion bank wee kwụ ụgwọ kwụnụ. Piano star 572 hash.
Yalla na kauna Allah ka turo mu kudi akan Accion bank dina.
Má ṣe ìyọnu láti lọ sí ilé ìfowópamọ́ ìwọ ṣáà ti tẹ *572# lórí ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ rẹ.
Accion Microfinance Bank. My future is bright.
Nítòótọ́ ṣé pé tí mo bá ṣí àkáǹtì pẹ̀lú Accion wọ́n máa máyé rọrùn fún mi.
Ina son iya karɓar kuɗin Accion banki na yi amfani kai ƙara kasuwa ta.
Chai, Accion bank nwere na ATM card.
No need to stress, I no need the stress. With Accion Microfinance Bank, I deal with the best, I no settle for less. Bank where they make your life better. With checking the money, you fit open accounts. Save money now to pay your bills. And you fit to get a loan to grow your business. Well, my future is bright, oh. My future is bright, oh. With Accion Bank. With Accion, oh. My future is bright, oh. With Accion Bank. With Accion, oh. My future is bright, oh. With Accion Bank. With Accion, oh. My future is bright, oh. Is bright, oh.
Accion Microfinance Bank. My future is bright.
Hey, Accion, star 572 hash. Na the code. Accion, star 572 hash. Money go. Open account with Accion to save for tomorrow. There's an easy way to bag every day. Hey, star 572 hash. Now hear me the code. I know get to a holla. Oh, it's a life. Oh, money on me go. Star 572 hash. Oh, get a life. Oh, but the flow is bright. Star 572 hash. Send money to family and friends and business partners on top your phone. Wherever you are, whatever you do, hey, pay your bills and recharge
Jiri ni
your
Accion
phone.
bank wee kwụ ụgwọ kwụnụ. Piano star 572 hash.
Yalla na kauna Allah ka turo mu kudi akan Accion bank dina.
Má ṣe ìyọnu láti lọ sí ilé ìfowópamọ́ ìwọ ṣáà ti tẹ *572# lórí ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ rẹ.
Accion Microfinance Bank. My future is bright.
Nítòótọ́, ṣé pé tí mo bá ṣí àkáǹtì pẹ̀lú Accion wá máa máyé rọrùn fún mi?
Ina son iya karɓar kuɗin Accion banki na yi amfani kai ƙara kasuwa ta.
Chai, Accion bank nwere na ATM card.
No need to stress, I no need the stress. With Accion Microfinance Bank, I deal with the best, I no settle for less. Bank where they make it life better. You checking the money, you fit open account. Save money now to pay your bills. And you fit to get the loan to grow your business. Well, my future is bright, oh. My future is bright, oh. With Accion Bank. With Accion, oh. My future is bright, oh. With Accion Bank. With Accion, oh. My future is bright, oh. With Accion Bank. With Accion, oh. My future is bright, oh. It's bright, oh.
Accion Microfinance Bank. My future is bright.
Hey, Accion, star 572 hash. Now the code Accion, star 572 hash. Money go. Open accounts with Accion to save for tomorrow. There's an easy way to bank every day. Hey, star 572 hash. Now here we go. I know get wahala. Oh, it's a life. Oh, money on the go. Star 572 hash. Oh, get a life. Oh, but the flow is bright. Star 572 hash. Send money to family and friends and business partners on top your phone. Wherever you are, whatever you do, hey, pay your bills and recharge
Jiri
your
ni
phone.
Accion bank we kugo kun. Piano star 572 hash.
Yalla na kauna Allah ka turo mu kudi akan Accion bank dina.
Má ṣe ìyọnu láti lọ sí ilé ìfowópamọ́ ìwọ ṣáà ti tẹ star 572 # lórí ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ rẹ.
Accion Microfinance Bank. My future is bright.
Nítòótọ́, ṣé pé tí mo bá ṣí àkáǹtì pẹ̀lú Accion wá máa máyé rọrùn fún mi?
Ina son iya karɓar kuɗin Accion banki na yi amfani kai ƙara kasuwa ta.
Chai, Accion bank nwere na ATM
No
card.
need to stress, I no need the stress. With Accion Microfinance Bank, I deal with the best, I no settle for less. Bank where they make it life better. You checking the money, you fit open account. Save money now to pay your bills. And you fit to get the loan to grow your business. Well, my future is bright, oh. My future is bright, oh. With Accion Bank. With Accion, oh. My future is bright, oh. With Accion Bank. With Accion, oh. My future is bright, oh. With Accion Bank. With Accion, oh. My future is bright, oh. It's bright, oh.
Accion Microfinance Bank. My future is bright.
Hey, Accion, star 572 hash. Now the code Accion, star 572 hash. Money go. Open accounts with Accion to save for tomorrow. There's an easy way to bank every day. Hey, star 572 hash. Now here we go. I know get wahala. Oh, it's a life. Oh, money on the go. Star 572 hash. Oh, get a life. Oh, but the flow is bright. Star 572 hash. Send money to family and friends and business partners on top your phone. Wherever you are, whatever you do, hey, pay your bills and recharge
Jiri ni
your
Accion
phone.
bank we kugo kun. Piano star 572 hash.
Yalla na kauna Allah ka turo mu kudi akan Accion bank dina.
Má ṣe ìyọnu láti lọ sí ilé ìfowópamọ́ ìwọ ṣáà ti tẹ star 572 # lórí ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ rẹ.
Accion Microfinance Bank. My future is bright.
Nítòótọ́, ṣé pé tí mo bá ṣí àkáǹtì pẹ̀lú Accion wá máa máyé rọrùn fún mi?
Ina son iya karɓar kuɗin